Click, buy, deliver. With remote purchasing from the two-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasin The Racin.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin The Racin, episode 116, and we're delighted to be joined by BSB, tag Honda BSB rider Dan Linfoot, as well as director of iBuyAnyBikes.com, co-director, is it? Welcome to the show. I know this has been a long time in the making. We were speaking months ago about having you on the show when a good friend of yours, Joe Ackroyd, was on. But yeah, thanks for coming up and
filling in his shoes. You know what I mean? Because we couldn't get him again. So there we go.
No, thanks guys. Like you say, it's been a long time coming. And I said to you on take one a minute ago, I feel like I'm on Friday night with Jonathan Ross tonight. I've been waiting so long to sit in this chair where all my heroes have sat. So thanks for having me.
And obviously, like, this is take 2. This is better. This is almost unnatural yet again. So we did go into borderline tears when you explained your love, your devotion to Joe Ackroyd. So we've got that swept under the table, that he is one of your heroes.
Yeah.
So who else has been on the bench, shall we say then?
Well, obviously being in the circle that we're in the bike racing world, you know, everyone's been here, you know, Brooksy, Eden, Jason, they're probably the only ones I've watched, to be honest. I haven't watched many more than that. I know you had Jack Kennedy on recently, and fair play to you boys. I've seen, you know, all your thumbnails come up with all the guys that you've had on, and you've done a lot by now. So yeah, you've had some hours in this chair, hasn't you?
And who would you want on then?
What if I was going to suggest somebody?
Yeah, go on. There you go, straight in.
God, it's hard to say. Have you had many team managers on?
Oh, there's a good question.
Have you had Harvey Beltran on?
Who? Not yet.
There might be an interesting one for you.
Who?
Harvey. It's the Honda BSB.
The new
team.
one.
He's been there along.
Hold on, I'm trying to think. Neil Tuxworth.
Yeah, so
the guy who took on from Neil Tuxworth.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Got you. There we go then.
And you were schoolmates with Joe, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, me and Joe go back to secondary school. He was a year below me, but we started sort of kicking around together from, I think I was probably year 8, year 9, and he was the year below. So yeah,
What's the most embarrassing story you've got on Joe then? Come on.
I don't have many.
Don't be shy. Come on.
Joe, if you're watching, I think you know what I'm going to say.
You know fine well he's watching, so you might as well go for it.
It's not an embarrassing one, but there's one that sticks
We don't want that one.
We used to cycle home from school every day, and it's down a big hill, and we were knocking on down this hill one day, and he had this weird like bike that only had a brake on one side or something, I don't know. Anyway, he fucked up this hill and ended up doing a big stoppie and pretty much grinding down this hill with his face just scraping the floor. And I remember him standing up and all this blood and guts coming out of his mouth, and I'm like, man, you need help quick. And we just knocked on the first person's door we could see and asked him if they could help. But that's just one, you know. We were kids together, and you know what kids together at that age are like. There's all sorts of criminal activity, and
I'm not gonna lie, I'm slightly disappointed. I thought you might have caught him having a wank, you know, like in the changing rooms or something like that. You know, I'm trying to think of something really embarrassing.
That doesn't spring to mind.
You're slightly glazed over there. There is a story I can tell, isn't there? There's something that you're not telling us about Joe.
If I dig one out in this pod later on, I'll let you know. But
happy
I can't
days. You better had, because Joe will be watching this right now, going, "Don't you dare!" Dan.
By the way, just a quick one.
Don't you dare!
He got married at the weekend. I don't know if you know, Joe. So congrats on getting your ring on recently.
They are on the great words of Beyonce. If you like it, put a ring on it.
He's got quite a busy schedule this year, hasn't he, with all the endurance racing and stuff.
He keeps busy, to be fair. He's a bit of a landscape gardener and does endurance, and he's been doing a bit of testing for like a scooter company, I think, in Europe. So he's and
a male model for Spitfire clothing. Every time I turn on Instagram, it's just him giving a slight silhouette walk down there. I'm thinking, I'm slightly getting attracted here. Like, you know, he's going to have an OnlyFans next. It's blossoming him. I can tell you.
You're involved with the Triumph things with Joe, aren't you? Same sort of, like, do a bit of part-time work.
Actually, that's how our paths crossed again. I mean, although we were friends in school, you know, I went my way doing racing, and he did race for quite a while, but then he went his way with work and other stuff. And it was when I was asked to do some Triumph work, and when I left the Honda team at the end of 2018, looked to do some sort of work, manufacturer based. And yeah, I started doing the press events for Triumph, which are like a winter, I'm not going to say jolly because it's work, I'll tell the missus it's work anyway. Sort of week or 10 days in a posh hotel in Europe, and basically the world's press come to try a new model Triumph, and you basically lead a tour ride every day of a group of journos, which it's great fun. You know, we all ride bikes. It's great fun. So yeah, I crossed paths with Joe again on that, and it sort of rekindled our sort of friendship from youth really. And strange how we let it dwindle away, but yeah, we've got back in touch. And
I don't know if you listened to the podcast he did, but he was actually saying you got him into racing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I think you were doing like sort of mini bikes at the time, and he was like BMXing, and
that's exactly the story. Yeah, I raced mini bikes from 2001, 2002, and we were still at school in that time. So obviously him and another friend sort of seen I did that, and they liked the idea of, I think, doing it. So
was this high school, middle school? Was it
high school?
Right.
Early years in high school, I think. And then Joe, this is, I don't know if you know this nickname, but I actually call Joe Gem Boy. Have you heard that one
Excuse
before
me?
or not? I'll tell you the story.
I think you can't say that these days.
I had a mini bike which was called a Pacini. I don't know if you know Pacini, the same sort of thing. And there was one particular manufacturer mini bike or mini motor called Gem, and nobody had them because they were absolute rubbish. But Joe bought a Gem, so we just called him Gem Boy. Nice. And that name sort of stuck, and not many other people call him that.
Because I'm going to call him that now, just because I feel like a part of the story now.
And speaking of the trips away and stuff, we were just having a quick chat in the kitchen beforehand. You're involved. Oh, okay to talk about this.
Yeah,
because it is launched now, isn't it?
That's right.
Involved with a new sort of business venture, which sounds especially to our audience who are tend to be in bike enthusiasts, and I think everyone likes nice trips abroad and 5-star hotels and stuff. So do you want to tell us about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially off the rebound in COVID as well. A lot of people have been locked up for a couple of years or whatever. So yeah, myself and Gareth Bright, who is the guy who got me the work at Triumph, have joined forces to start a new company called Woodcote Events. And essentially we're offering sort of premium and European touring, so 5-star hotels, 5 or 6 days touring on your own motorcycle. So we'll collect the bike from your door, freight it over to the hotel in Europe, and we'll ride every day with a group of sort of 20 to 30 other paying customers. But not only that, you'll have legend bike riders with you. You'll have BSB riders, World Superbike riders, TT riders. We'll pick probably 6 or 7 riders per event that the paying customers will get to ride with. And on an evening we'll have questions and answers. The riders will host a table, so it's a chance to obviously mix with some of your heroes, if depending on who your hero is.
It's proper bucket list. It's like a proper bucket list thing for someone to do that, isn't it?
The idea is fantastic. Obviously, it's really
yeah.
early days at the moment, and I'm a little bit keen to understand how it's going to work. I'm sure there's going to be a few hurdles to jump over, but yeah, if there's anybody touring riders out there, woodcote-events.com, have a look at the list of events that we've got going on, and if you want to join on one, it'd be our pleasure.
Is that an active website now?
Just gone live 6 o'clock tonight.
All right, fantastic. Yeah. Right. Is the price list on there?
Price list on there, yeah, price list on there. I'll not let you look at that bit.
do you know, when you've been going out and doing with Triumph, what's been your best like roads wise and hotels? Like, what's the best location you've ever been to?
We've done some really good ones, and actually they've given us the idea to do the same sort of thing for Woodcote Events. Morocco was mind blowing. We launched the Tiger 900 in Marrakesh, central Marrakesh, and I'm a Yorkshire man, and I'm used to a little bit of fresh air and not a lot of city life, if you want to call it that. And just to ride through the centre of Marrakesh was just absolute bedlam. And like the first couple of days, I'm out in my element thinking, Jesus Christ, this is not for me. I was like real nervous getting near cars, but give it 2 or 3 days, you're barging cars out of the way and you're just getting on with it and getting to where you need to go. So Marrakesh was mega. Some really good roads on. We did a route from central Marrakesh to a coastal town called Es Souira. Some really sort of like narrow gravelly roads, perfect for like adventure bikes. And again, like I say, this is where the ideas came from. So one day hopefully we'll get to redo the Marrakesh trip. But we've done some great areas. Faro, believe it or not, Faro, Portugal. There's some really cracking roads up in the hills there. One particular route called the N2. I remember the very first day that myself, Joe, Gary Johnson, Taylor were all out learning a route, because that's when we arrive sort of on event. The first day we have to learn the route. So basically, yeah, you're laughing. There's 4 guys given bikes from Triumph, go and learn the route. Well, what do? You're proper having a good time. But it is actually quite difficult to take in the route, probably 200-mile route in one day, and learn it for the next day you're taking live guests, without putting a foot wrong. So I remember the first day we found this road in Faro called the N2, and literally it's just bang, 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 bang for 30, 40 miles. And like, it was insane. We stopped at this junction, we're high-fiving each other and like, oh yeah, what a day, man. And this is the buzz that we want to give to the paying customers now with Woodcote.
And do you know what? I think because everyone would love to do that, but to know the route, to know the safe places, to know the hotels, to know the cafes, the right cafes to stop at, it's almost impossible to know all that. So for somebody to look after all of the organisation and literally just turn up and enjoy it. Plus, do you know when you do like European track days and stuff, and there's maybe like Neil Hodgson or someone in the pub on a night, the customers love just like having the banter. And, like, things.
Exactly that, and they're the two things we wanted to combine. Was obviously we all share a love of and passion of riding motorbikes, whether it's track, road, adventure, whatever, and then that banter and evening, that crack on an evening with the legends and the guests. So.
Proper exciting. I tell you, just at the start of this podcast, I really want to get this in early on because I've never been before myself, and I'm really interested. I haven't really spoke to Don much this week anyway, but he was over in Armoy racing, and it's been the first proper road race for like an Irish road race for ages, hasn't it?
For 2 years.
And I was speaking to Croy about it because he was
Now, what did Crowy make of it?
loved it, absolutely loved it.
My God, I tell you, it was literally a mountain going round a footpath. I tell you what, it was just phenomenal.
Was it his first time there, Crowy? Was it?
But he's not a stranger to road racing, but this is proper. They put horse shit on the track to make it a road race. It is the most phenomenal Irish meeting going. It really is. It's by far the best national.
Have you seen the cling film, the tyres in the paddocks to get to the track?
And then get on the track and ride on cow shit.
Honestly, it's meant. I tell you what. Hold on, I saw you pissing around Teesside, right? Teesside was considerably safer than unsafer than Armoy.
I seen some footage the other day. Was it Michael Dunlop with someone behind him doing a jump and having a massive tank slapper and nearly came off it?
Oh God, I had people touching wheels and all sorts. It's all blind left turns.
Was it McGee on the Kawasaki?
My God,
he landed on his front wheel, didn't he, and got all crossed up.
Oh, that's a bad leap. But the mad thing is, I think he just got pushed out wide. The problem is, it's a system of repetition round there. You know, if you just slightly step up, that's where the buzz is with road racing. It's like with you lads. To be blunt, you know, you can experiment with things. You know, like mid-turn round there, you just go and get a jump going. Don't be experimenting on this one, son. You hit a jump, you don't think, well, if I just corrected a bit. No, you fucking commit, young'un. You just keep it in straight line.
You get your buzz from road racing from making a small error and getting close to a wall. Is that what you're saying?
That's 100% it.
Oh, loony, man.
No, but I'm not being funny, but that's 100% it. You know what I mean? It's like road racing. It's that buzz of getting it wrong. Why else go road racing? Well, you know what I mean? It's like if I got a buzz of going round in circles, I'll just hang around with you hair gel wankers all day. You know what I mean?
Don't go to hair. Don't talk.
Elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. Shoot it now. No, but like, that's the thing. Different people make different things tick. And I throw that hair gel wanker crack around with because I'm just jealous. I would love to be as fast as you lads. You know what I mean? It's all a bit of fun, but. Like that's the thing with roads. It's that element of just pushing a bit more and a bit more. And unfortunately, if it does go wrong, it goes wrong in a big way. You know,
I've done one road event. I did Macau in 2008.
Hold on. Hold on. My God. Right. So hold on. Right. So you're going loony 2 minutes ago, and yet you do the Arco jungle of Macau. Let's talk about this a little bit, Princess. Right. We've got a huge history to go through how you became a ride and everything, and ended up at a right. Let's just talk about how you ended up in Macau.
It was what a wonderful experience, but all went wrong, and I've got a nice little lump in my collarbone to show for it now.
It?
Yeah. I crashed at Lisboa on that one. And this is one of my many stories I have.
It's all about foreplay, this show. It's 100% about foreplay. You've got to build into it. You just don't just jam things in.
Ask me.
So, right. What were you doing in that year leading up to Macau? What were you on?
I was riding in European Superstock 600, which was the support event at World Superbike for a team you might remember, Chris, called Stonebaker Racing.
I don't know them.
2008.
They literally sound like they sell weed.
It was a partnership between Andrew Stone and Richard Baker. So Andrew Stone was the technical side, if you like. Richard Baker was the financing side.
Right.
So it was a private team that did the European Superstock 600 series, and I was teammates with Gino Rea.
Jesus.
The end of that year, sort of Gino went with Andrew, and Andy looked after him in World Supersport, but Richard stayed with me and sort of financed me to move into British Supersport the year after in 2009. But he said to me at the end of 2008, would you like to do Macau? We were just starting to open up communication with Rob Mack about trying to get a Supersport ride for the following year. And he said, to get used to the bike, you know, test time, etc., would you like to do Macau? And I was like, would I like to do Macau?
And this is on a 600?
Yeah, this was on a 600.
Around Macau,
Yeah,
right?
so that was when they ran them together, the 600 and the 1000s in the same race.
Bloody Norris.
And this is half the reason for the crash. This is no bullshit. This is half the reason for the crash was that literally it's my first ever road event. So I was I was nervous to be there on the first day when you go around the track and you see all the diesel on the track from the taxis, blah, blah, blah.
Oil and
I was
everywhere.
shitting myself. But actually, you know what it's like when you get your helmet on, visor down, you get concentrating. I was really enjoying it. And to be fair, McGuinness came to see me, I think, on the Saturday morning or something. He said, I followed you the other day. You looked really good and smooth. Just keep what you're doing. Keep safe. You're doing a great job. Dan crashes the next day. So, yeah, started the race. Well, every session I'd build up and get stronger and stronger and stronger and closer to sort of where I needed to be. And I think the only other guy there on a 600 was Keith Moore on an AIM Yamaha.
Yeah, and Keith Moore is far from a mug, so there you go. What age were you at this point?
20.
20, and you went to Macau on a 600, right? Yeah. This is highlighting the loony thing. I'm gonna have a handwritten
I've dug a
apology.
hole for myself there.
Haven't you? I want a handwritten apology at the end of this show saying, I'm sorry, Dominic. There you go. But carry on, 600, yep, you're catching Keith Moore, which is...
I wouldn't say catched him, but my times every session were getting closer and closer to him. So I was sort of gently feeding my way into the road racing of Macau, that event anyway. Anyway, starts the race, I'm well back on the grid, but I'm getting better and better, and I'm finding my way. And starts the race. I'm on a 600. Pretty much everyone else is on 1,000. So you know what it's like out of turn 1, turn 2, Mandarin. You just get absolutely blasted by the thousands. I thought, well, my only chance to make up a few places is going to be on the brakes into Lisboa. So I saw the Esso petrol station fly by, and I thought, right, I'll hit the brakes where I brake, but I couldn't quite get it stopped. And I just tagged the back of Bruce Anstey on a relentless Taz superbike.
I had no idea Bruce has been round there. No, this is min crack. Carry on.
Bruce went down, I went down, and we even brought a bloke down behind me. Well, I brought a bloke down behind me called Rico Penskoffer. He was not happy. He was a big, bulky German. He was not happy. And this is how it goes, honestly. I got up, shitting myself, thinking, oh, fuck, I've just taken Bruce Anstey out of Macau. What's he going to say? So I goes over to him. I put some arm on his shoulder, and I said, mate, I'm ever so sorry. Didn't mean to do it. Just got it a bit wrong on the brakes. He put his arm back around me and said, don't worry about it, mate. I didn't want to come here anyway. And that is God's honest truth how it went.
Shut up, man.
About 10 seconds later, I put my hand in my levers. Like, oh yeah, something's not right there. And I broke my collarbone, and that was that. So I had to fly home with a cast on and a lump in my shoulder. But yeah, that's my Macau story.
I tell you what, I bet that was an education being in Macau when you were 20.
Yeah, it was. And do you know what? It'd probably be a lot different now. And I would like to go back to see the difference, and even potentially even to race again. I'm not against racing there again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great place. So much going on, things that obviously blokes should just talk about and etc. But it's fun place. Yeah, the experience of riding around that track, I've got some pictures that I'll cherish. I wish I had some more. So
yeah, I bet.
Would you go back?
I'd like to go back.
No,
yeah.
Like if someone said right next year, it's apparently it's back on this year.
I think I'd have to run it past the missus first. But in terms of, this is my dilemma with road racing, right? I'm not going to say I'm under the thumb, but I'm not against doing TT. I'd love to do the TT at some point, but I just don't want to do it against my family's wishes. If they were to support me to do it, I'd go and do it. But I just don't. I'm just not quite 100% enough about it yet.
No. Could you go there not 100%?
Well, probably not. Oh, definitely not.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing. You'd have to look into your wife's eyes, and she'd go, look, are you going to go there and try and win it? And you're going to go behind great teeth going, not this year.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing, though, isn't it?
If I was going to do it, I should have done it by now. I went on the newcomers trip to actually start the TT in 2008, 2009, the same year as the Birchalls went and a load of others, and obviously didn't have the nuts to sign up to it. Probably one of my regrets actually is not continuing to do that, but actually I think it's at that time a good thing, because clearly I crashed at Macau the same year, so I obviously wasn't ready, as in I wasn't calm enough to attack the TT. I would say back then I was still a bit juvenile in my riding, a little bit loose, could outbrake myself, that sort of thing, whereas actually now I feel like I'm a lot calmer, and I'm not going to say smoother. I still have my times work really, but don't make as many mistakes.
Do you know? Here's a question. Do you know if you were, but to both of you, if you were involved with running the TT, so like organising it, and it was and there was a panel, and you were discussing about the minimum age for doing the TT. Do you have do you have a specific age you think that should be the cut off for a minimum age?
25.
do you know, I'm not just saying that. That's exactly what I think as well.
And my last comments were sort of reiterating that. Really, I was 20 at the time, and it was too soon. And another 5 or 6 years I'd have been.
But saying that, you look at the legacy of like Michael Dunlop. Like there's been loads, like even like Joey Thompson. You've got Josh Daly. You've got everyone. You know what I mean? It's like hell. I went there when I was 22, and that you know what I mean. I first got a bike at 21. It was 22. It's those kind of things with the Manx. But you see, that's unfair, isn't it? I think it's down. It's difficult. It's pressure. It's all about that pressure situation. I think that panel have got such a tough job, and I think they do so well to tell their riders, look, do not make it up. It takes 3 years, and I fully support that. It does take years to get it right, but when you got the carrot dangling, going, here we go, son, you're going to do this and that and this.
There's a massive debate at the moment in general, like especially on Twitter and in the motorsport community, about minimum age for Grand Prix bikes, because obviously
that Moto3 lad.
There's been a couple of recent deaths, and at the moment in some countries you can ride a Grand Prix one, like a Moto3 bike, which are fast bikes, when you're 12-year-old. And there's a huge debate whether that should be lifted. It's different in different countries.
Well, what's your opinion?
For me, when I was, let's think, I think I was 12, 13. I think I was 15 when I got onto a GP125, which is the equivalent of Moto3. I would not want to have got I wouldn't want to get on one of those bikes much younger than that. I think for me, 14, 15. There's such fast speeds, and especially. I don't know. Do you know, with all this slipstreaming and the danger doesn't come in just crashing and say high siding and falling off. All of the danger is when there's other bikes involved. Yeah. It's a really, really difficult one. I definitely think 12's too young.
But in the same breath, you put a 12-year-old on a motocross bike. The thing is, motorcycles are like loaded guns. They're not dangerous sitting there, are they? A bike works both ways, and you're going to hurt yourself doing 100 on a 80. You know what I mean? You're still going to hurt yourself at a faster speed. You know what I mean? You're still travelling.
A considerable speed.
Doesn't matter what class you are, but putting a cap on things. Like, I almost I'm going to revoke my answer from the Isle of Man 25-year-old, because it's a bit very hypocritical of this. But, it is weird.
Are you changing?
I'm changing my answer. 21. I'm going to go 21.
21, fair enough.
I was going to say earlier also, I think it depends on how you grow up with what your desire is, doesn't it?
Of course.
If you were brought up watching Joey Dunlop and McGuinness, and your whole life's effort was going, I'm going to race TT.
Yeah.
You'd be upset if you were 20 years old, capable of doing it, but weren't allowed to do it till you were 25.
Is the minimum age at the moment 21, or is it?
No, I think it's 18.
Yeah, so I think it should be raised to 21. I would agree with you, or maybe 25.
But you see, then you look at Josh Daly. There's a perfect example. He turned up. He was doing BSB, Super Sport, and everything like that. And everyone was like, you know what? I'm going to call him out right now. There was a man called Michael Mims, right? The Mims family, absolutely outstanding, from Durham there, sidecar and everything. I'll never forget what he said to me. Now, my old man doesn't watch me race or nothing like that. But my old man said, look, you've done the Manx now. What about the TT? That's a different story. And Michael Mims came up to us, like, literally overlooked us. I said, oh no, I'm doing the TT. Big smiley face, go, I'm doing the TT. And he goes, you're going to fucking kill yourself. And I just went, when you just think, who are you to say that? But unfortunately, there's that stigma element of it. You think, because you're young and fast. No, I wasn't fast, I'm still not fast. But it's just because, there's always that immediate stigma, and it almost takes them people to slow it down. Like Josh Daly, immediately, stock, he was doing stock 600 at a time, pushing at the front, going really, really fast, and immediately everyone just underlined him, he's going to kill himself. Yeah. And the thing is, he's done the biggest thing for the Isle of Man, in my opinion. He's built up. Yeah. He's not going slower, he's getting faster, but not going bang. And unfortunately, people have gone there, done the newcomers, and they've gone like shit off a stick, and everyone's going, the next big this, the big that. And unfortunately, it's a place where you can, it goes so quiet. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's no forgiveness around there, and unfortunately, you're as good as your last comment.
Yeah, that's the one thing I want to experience, is the closed road lap of the TT.
I tell you, I hope your wife doesn't listen to this, but the thing, you regret things in life that you don't do. But my only worry with people like yourself, you're a British superbike rider. How would you feel, when the whole world looks at you? You automatically have a title. You have worked so hard to get that, and you are at the front. How would you feel if you went, I'm going to the TT? Would you feel that pressure?
It's hard to say. I'm not in that situation at the moment. How would I feel?
No,
I think if I was seeing my life on the line, I'd say, right, Dan, take your time. Year 1, just go learn. Year 2, push a little bit more until you're prepared and ready to push comfortably. I quite like how Plater did it. When he went there late, took his time, but then had a win or two and got out of it. I quite like that sort of. That's an appeal, but honestly, I don't know if I'll ever tick the box or not.
Yeah.
But there is a burning desire in there to at least try the TT.
You'll have to go to at least a parade lap. You'll kill yourself if you don't.
I've
go
asked
to
a few
parade
times, and I don't think there's been an opportunity, but I would love to.
Right, there you go. We'll take my bike. I haven't got a bike yet, but Fran Counton won't mind. Fran, we're lending him the 600.
That's definitely going to be the first Woodcourt events
TT.
Nice, straight round the lap. There we go.
So Dan can get a lap in.
I can't believe you went to Macau at 20. That's mint. That is absolutely outstanding. And so you buffed your collarbone, and like at that exact point, was it just like, I'm not doing this again?
And I'll tell you what happened as well. Guy Martin had crashed the year before, I think, didn't race, and he crashed in practice or qualifying when I was there. And I remember it was the 90-degree right-hander, I don't know the name of it, but I remember Guy and his bike laying in the track with an ambulance, and you just rode around the outside of it and carried on. And I was like, oof, wow, this is rare.
It's deep end, isn't it?
With Macau being invite only, is there quite a lot of pressure on riders not to crash?
Yeah,
Huge.
absolutely, yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
They prefer you not to crash. Like, honestly, they are like, just go, like, if you go there and not crash, you're invited back.
Yeah, I was told I wasn't invited back.
Because of your crash?
Yeah. But I believe it's
that's
changed.
pressure, isn't it?
As in the organisers have changed. I think it was Erta when I did it,
Yeah.
and now it's not.
No, so Mervyn White's actually, so from the northwest, it's Mervyn that's steering the boat at the moment. But like, no, they want a clean show, like, and it's rightly so, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
I've heard Macau this year is still a 3-week quarantine when you get there.
It was 2 weeks and now it's gone up to 3.
Right.
But even though we're in a safer position now and people are getting double pricked in the arm and stuff like that, I don't know what's going on. I'm hoping that changes because there's no way I can't even afford to sit here, man. Never mind 2 weeks off
not
work.
Ideal. Hey boys, just while we're here, my missus has brought you some sweets for free.
Weed cookies.
So she started a little online sweet business called Sweets to Me, and we just thought we'd bring some sweets to a little chomp on while we're here. So
happy
knock
days.
yourselves out. I'm getting stuck straight in.
Good
Very
lads,
kind.
good
Is that
lads.
on for people that want to order? Is it on Instagram or?
Yeah, she's on Instagram and Facebook. I've got a little leaflet here just so I can read.
You are good, aren't you? You are getting some later on.
Facebook, Sweets to Me.
Come on, Dan. Whip them down.
Just sweetstome.co.uk. Anyway, less of that, more eating. Get stuck in.
Less of that.
So we got on to road racing. Speaking about Armoy, so you have a good. You were there Friday,
Oh my
Saturday.
God.
Took the 350, 600 Super Twin.
My God.
How did it go?
I tell you what, this is the worst bit of the show. It's. I'm going to end up forgetting so much, and it's like, I tell you what, I've got to put a quick shout out, mind. One of our names guests that we haven't had him on, a lad called Ryan Whitehall. I nicknamed him Captain Insano. Right, he went to Scarborough. He was like 15 seconds off the pace, but going into turn 1, you're a Yorkshireman.
Yeah,
you must
I know
Scarborough.
all of us a little bit. Yeah.
There you go. Would you ever do it?
I wouldn't be against it actually. Yeah.
You see, we're turning him into a road race a bit by bit here. So turn 1. So anyway, right, you watched him. I was standing on the side of this, just chatting away, and you just saw this lad. Literally, he fell off in a straight line. And I'm going, fuck, like turn round, and he just skitted left and right. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I grabbed Chrissy and said, "Come watch this fucking nutter." And he's like, "Well, you know, I'm Mr. BSB, you know. It takes a fair bit to shock me." He didn't say those words, but in his eyes, he was like, "I'm unshakable, Herbertson." And he was like,
Basically, Dom came to grab me and he said, "You've got to come and watch this lad. He's like mid-pack in the B race, but watch him into turn 1." And being honest, I was walking up there thinking I wasn't expected to be impressed, right? And then so it's like comes past the first like 5, and you're watching, and it's like yeah. And then all of a sudden mid-pack, this kid just comes flat out around the right hander, drops a couple of gears, sends it totally sideways on the lock stop, like all the way into the apex, and then flicks it round and like comes out.
Wow.
Honestly, unbelievable.
he got Dean Harrison, the lap record holder, right? And he looked wank compared to this lad here, right? So anyway, I nicknamed him Captain Insano. He for some reason he absorbed it. He loved it. He was getting t-shirts and Cookstown like, "I'm with Captain Insano." But the thing is, all right, it's that little bit of a stigma. So we kind of created that stigma, so I do apologise. But he's safe. You know, when you watch him, I've watched him at other places. He's not putting anyone else in danger. You know, he gets a nice clear bit of road and he puts a show on. It's an entertainment sport.
Stylish, very stylish.
Proper stylish. But unfortunately, he went to Armoy and had a humongous crash. I'll have to. I tell you what, you got it on your phone.
Well, I'll stick it on the YouTube so people can see it.
Well, I'm talking about it. You look for it in the show. Dan.
Is he all right or what?
And, well, basically, he came over the jump and he shut the throttle. It snapped away. He's broken both his legs, and it's like a full fixator on the right hand side. And he potentially, touch wood, for the love of God, he might be losing his left foot. Spoke to him on the phone, and honestly, he is the lad is an inspiration to the human race. He's on the phone, taking the piss, just soaking it up. You know, a lot of people just get absorbed in that and going, oh, fuck, you know, I hate this, I hate that. He's the opposite. He's the total opposite. He's
Good mindset.
A huge, great mindset. And like his missus, they come from the Isle of Wight. So they got on a boat, like they've got a transit van with the windows knocked to, chipboard on it. They've come over, like they've travelled up the country, then crossed over. Here we go, here comes that crash. Just what? Jesus, I know.
Oh my God.
That is tasty, isn't it?
So sending our best wishes to,
Oh, God,
to Ryan.
100% on that side of things.
Yeah.
And then
Get well soon, mate.
I'm trying to think who, like, I've got a list here. I've got a list.
Well, start with your results. So,
No one cares about my results. I'm talking about the fun stuff. So, so we got like what do you call him? Joe Loughlin crashed on the warm-up lap. He put himself airlifted off. I tell you what, he is a loose lad. My God, he is like.
was it his fault that he crashed? Or someone?
I have no idea. And it was just. My God, Joe, he actually came second in the Super Twin race. He just pipped. Like, Adam McLean got caught up in back markers and pipped off. He was on a 60 grand pattern in the Super Twin class, and my God, it was just loose. My God, he's loose. He's just all over the place. He's just, it was nuts. He's absolutely nuts. And what else have we got? Hold on, we've got loads here. I'm not doing a very good job of this. Gareth Keys.
So I was going to say,
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
It's all right, isn't it? I mean, I'm not a real big fan of energy drinks, but it's
But
all
you're a
right.
huge fan of Rich Energy.
Pleasant
There you
enough.
are. You're a good lad.
Cheers.
I tell you what, we're setting a great example to young racers here, aren't we? Sweets and energy drinks.
Friday night, mate.
It's Friday night. Got to be done. And obviously, also another faller, unfortunately, was Gareth Keys. I mean, you come out the first chicane, and it is a flat out left. There is literally still photos of a fucking humongous high side. I mean, it's just you absolutely stepped out, probably around about fifth gear, tipping in on it, like there's just no run off, and it just, you know, when the suspension fully sags, the belly pan's on the floor.
You just ready for the big kickback.
Oh, you're watching it like, you know, when you just don't want to click the next photo, you're like, I'll just leave that here. It was massive. He's duffed his leg. Paul Jordan, he crashed in first practice. He took the front. Darryl Tweed, he took the front of the same crash, and there was a red flag. But I tell you what, how they fitted the event in, it was phenomenal. Armoy Club did a phenomenal job, and it was just plagued with a couple of crashes, but they cleared it up so well. And what was great to see was it was a massive audience. Yeah. Obviously, and they did a cracking job with the social distancing, but I have never been to an event with like an Irish event with so many people, and yet they kept in within the rules. I'm not just saying that, and it just shows how much like road racing's been missed, and it was absolutely cracking to see, and it was phenomenal. And also, I've just got to get this in. Gary McForty, he unfortunately lost his life
At the weekend?
No. Last year, he had a heart attack at home, and he used to run the campsite, and everyone knew him, and he had time and place for absolutely everyone. And Neil, who took over, did an outstanding job. You know, there were big boots to fill, and he did a cracking job of it. And I just think Bill Kennedy, Gina, there's that many people that it's been so important to have that event back on the show. It really has. And all the Afghan oil diggers are asking after you. You can't remember them. They're going to be heartbroken. I tell you what, absolutely mortal, pissed in the bar. There's this bloke here who says he doesn't have any money. He digs for oil in Afghanistan. Right. He's got plenty of bloody money, hasn't he? Oh, yeah, that's it. If you want to sponsor Dan Linfoot, he's available. He's always available. There's that many things.
We've had a full crash report. So
That's unfortunately it, yeah.
We know all the crashes. I know you
Everyone's all right, by the way.
You won the 350 race, new lap record.
Yeah. Thank you. Big thanks to the Hayf lads. It was a parade bike that they pulled out the shed. The Davies team that I normally ride for on that bike, they had commitments at Donington Park with the CRMC. So like the Hayfs just went, "Oh, just take my bike," and I said, "Yeah, I'll ride it gently." I rode the fucking wheels off it. I'm not gonna lie. The clutch was heavy as hell, and the no silencers as well in Ireland.
Yeah.
Wow. Mint. Literally, you got
That class is like the sort of backbone of Irish road racing, and at the 350s. So to get the lap record, you must have been well chuffed for that.
Yeah, it was just, I'll tell you what, I'm gutted I didn't have a 500 because Ian Locker on an MV Augusta, that thing's worth £250,000. £250,000, original Aggo bike, and he just pipped Guy Martin over the line. And I just think it was great to see Guy Martin there. You know, I think it is important to have that support.
I didn't know Guy was doing that again, to be fair. So, yeah, great to him.
And hopefully he's going to be back at Cookstown at the end of September. So, apparently they're not full grids for September. But we'll hopefully get that sorted.
And on the bigger bikes, how did the twin go? 600?
Yeah, no, good. No, we that's the thing. You think you lads have got it hard, right? We get 5 laps in qualifying, and that's not free practice, nothing. You know, I'm trying to think what a lap is. It's like 140s anyway for a lap, and you get 5 of them. The Guillaume was a country mile out, brand new bike and everything, but the 600 we've taken huge steps forward. Massive steps forward, and it's like that's thanks to the Countons that. But I've been putting a lot of time in on the pit bike because, like I say, he nearly ran me over. Go on, tell everyone how useless I am on a pit bike.
Yeah, you went all right. Just the only laps that I saw you were trying to drag elbow that much, so you nearly high-sided right in front of me and nearly ran you over.
Have you seen Dom's done a little adaptation on his pit bike to drop the handlebars?
Oh, I have as well. I've done mine. I've flipped my handlebars over.
Oh, no, that's nothing. You see, I got Ambler Race Engineering there. We've actually built forwarders instead of risers.
Okay.
So you know how you get that dead positive cross feeling like on a motocross bike? So he's made CNC blocked that drops the bars forward and down. So it actually gives that same yoke feeling. Honestly, it's outstanding. So Ambler hated the project, but I literally drew it on the back of the tap.
Hence why you can try and get your elbow down on it then.
Oh, I totally hide
the
that.
bars are a bit
exactly
set up for it.
Exactly. Cheating, totally cheating.
And a quick shout out to Michael Dunlop, who smashed it at the weekend, didn't he?
Absolutely smashed it. I'll tell you, that's the first time I've actually had a bit of crack with him, and what a pleasure that was, because in the first qualifying I went out, and I got up with the front lads. I'm thinking, all right, spot on. Then the red flag came and went out again, right? Then I ended up mid-pack, and I went, bollocks to this. I'm going to go at the back. And I've never, ever, like I said to Michael, I said, look, son, right, I'm going to go at the back. Oh, you just go. I said, no, son, I'm not getting in your way. I'm not sitting here. I'm not going to do anything stupid. You know, I said, if you're going to have anyone behind you on a motorcycle, it's me. You know what I mean? Like, just go off. And I tell you what, I've never shit myself so much. All the pack go, and they're off like a angry bunch of hornets, and I'm going, what have I done here? You know what I mean? I'm totally wasting time. Michael was literally cruising, or like Dunlop, totally cruising. I'm going, when's he going to go here? I'm looking round going, they're going to go. And I tell you what, we got to the start straight, and that was it. And I've never, the seat of my pants gripped onto that seat to try and stay with Michael. And I've never, he literally came out the chicane, it was sideways, it was up out the seat, and I'm going, what a pleasure to watch. But I got on the first 2 rows or something like that. I got on the 3rd row, so I think I qualified 6th or something like that, and I'm like, that was mint. I was fucking sweat running off us, and I was trying to hang on to him. But that are 6 of his, and obviously with Michael on board, it's just a fucking rocket ship.
And I've got to say, I was impressed with Corey for his first, like you say, only 5 laps before racing, and he did a good job, didn't he? I seen his lap times by the end of it. He was something like the 5th fastest overall.
5th fastest of the weekend. He just took chunks after chunks after chunks, and I loved. He said he loved. So is he going back?
Yeah, 100%. I was at Donington with him the other day, and he said he absolutely loved it, and he said the track was I think he was expecting it to be a bit of a footpath, and where he said the actual track, once you get from the paddock, once you get your cling film off, he said the track was actually mint.
It is mint. That's the thing though, it's like anything, you turn anything into a track, if you know what I mean. If you drove down that, you go, this is shite, there's no room, nothing, but it turns into a racetrack bloody well quickly, mind. But no, he didn't Crowy, what a job. He owes me a screen though. I caught up with him on the 600. I didn't have a big bike in the first practice. I caught up in the 600. He fucking put rocks through me, literally obliterated me fairing and all sorts. But obviously, I'm not going to go chase Crowy for a tenner, am I? You know, it's like, you owe me a tenner. You'd just drive me into the floor like a fence post, wouldn't he? Just, there you go. You're coming to do Armour. You're doing Scarborough now. You've done Macau. You're going to do, I reckon you'll be back at the Teaser, and then go from there.
I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think so.
So yeah, so let's get back to you anyway. Let's go back to you.
I know. I'd actually listened to your podcast with Dave Neal. Shout out to Dave on
the shit podcast,
the off track podcast, and so obviously I do know your story, but I tell you what, we'll go straight into very early on in your career. So after starting off with the mini bikes and your sort of parents funding it and stuff, you had a one-off opportunity at the British Grand Prix on a like a wildcard GP 125 race. Talk us through that weekend, sir.
Yeah, so 2005, it was in my mum and dad's own family, funded team on a Honda RS 125 doing the British 125 series. Can't remember how it came about, but I think there was an ACU Academy Cup at the time. So there was a separate championship for ACU Academy riders to the actual British 125 championship, and I think I was either leading that or the top two in that. And off the back of that, they offered us a wild card for the British GP. Wasn't too keen to do it on our own bike because we didn't think it was spec'd up enough, shall we say, to go and take on the GP 125 boys. So we contacted the KRP team, who were the Mark Keane race prep. He was the main 125 GP team at the time. So we paid to join that team for the weekend, and luckily it was a peen down race day. Sort of levelled it a little bit. And I finished 9th in the race, which, on paper a great result, but it was very spread out and a lot of riders crashed. So I'm not taking anything away from that, but yeah, it was cool to do a GP and get that sort of result.
When you think though, like if people do a full year of Grand Prix racing, and if they can get into the points, so like 14th, 15th, it's a huge achievement. Yeah. So it must have been a bit surreal to be in the top 10. Like.
What was even better is actually Rob Guyver was in the race at the time on the SP125 blue 12 bike, and I'm pretty sure he was up challenging for a podium with Marco Simoncelli at the time. He was really knocking on. And
are these Simoncelli?
Yeah, he's got a photo passing Simoncelli in the wet. Yeah,
and I think he crashed and obviously didn't get the result. So I think I was the top Brit in the race at the time, but yeah, Guyver was proper having a go. But it was proper monsoon, like pissing down. And
how old were you?
2005. I was 17.
So, like that must have been was that at 17? You know what Dorton, you know the pressure and everything like that. How much pressure were you on?
I was nervous on the grid.
You were.
I was nervous for the weekend. I mean, there was the boys in that at the time were Callio, Bautista, Simoncelli.
Please tell me you've got this printed off.
I have somewhere. I got a timesheet from a couple of years later. I was in Misano doing a 250. I was a 250 GP regular at the time, although I only did about 6 races. But I was second in one of the practices in Misano, and Dovi was first and I was second. But the names after that was, again, Lorenzo, Bautista, Callio, Simoncelli. Yeah,
we'll sometimes say
outstanding.
We'll sometimes say who's your biggest scalp, as in who.
That's a lot of scalps.
I'll flick that question to you in a race. Who's the biggest name that you've beaten fair and square in a race?
What, in GPs?
Just anyone that you can think
ever.
of.
God, it's hard to say off the top of my head, Really hard. There's been I've been fortunate enough to race in so many different classes over the years. From the 125 GP with the names I've just said, 250 GP, World Supersport with Sofoglu, Samlos, Cluzel, BSB with Paslam, Shaky Keo. Sure, I'm not. What's the polite way to say?
You're not a fangirl?
No, I'm not a week in, week out winner, but I've had times where I've been on my top game and had a good feeling and I've been able to genuinely beat them.
Yeah.
Obviously, my BSB win at Alton in 17, where I beat Haslam on the last lap, was pretty high up there with best moments. But there's been a lot of other moments, like going to Suzuka and being teammates with Kianari and Yuki Takahashi at the time. They're just, you got to pinch yourself sometimes. Career could have been a lot better, but also could have been a lot worse.
I think about that all the time, if you think of all the hundreds and maybe thousands of people that all the time you've been racing that have been chasing the same dream as you, it's very easy to look at the 1 or 2 people that have maybe done a little bit better, but there's thousands of people that haven't. And in this scheme of things, if you looked at it on a chart, you would be in the top 0.1% of like of all the cohort that I've tried. So it's easy to beat yourself up, isn't it? And think like, oh, so and so's
you
doing
get
that.
zoned in on your own thing, don't you? And you just want more and more and more.
It's probably why you've done well anyway, because you have that attitude that you. But it's
I guess so. You're never looking back. You're always looking forward, aren't you? It's easy to lose sight of where you have been and what you have achieved and what you've done because you're so focused on trying to go the next step in what's in front of you. So frustrating, but I think perspective sometimes is a good answer, isn't it? And you can.
And also back then, the GP, like a genuine GP 250, which you've had the pleasure of riding. I've never been on one, but do you know about Dan's first ever race on a 250?
I'm about to find out.
Yeah, so this was 2006. I was in British 125 Championship with KRP, and there was the first 4 races. I'd won 2 of them, and I got a call from somebody pretty much saying, we want you to ride a Honda GP 250 in a European Championship event at Vallelunga. I'd never ridden anything bigger than 125. So I said, yeah, cool, yeah, sure, why not? I'd love to. I just want to push my career on. So we went to Vallelunga. I didn't even get a chance to walk the track because I arrived late, jumped on this 250, went better and better every session, ended up winning the race. And off the back of that, I won't say automatically, but the team pushed to get me as a wild card in a load of Grand Prix that year. So after that one 250 GP event at the European Championship where I won, I was awarded, I think, 6 or 7 Grand Prix wildcards in Europe with the same team. It was a private Honda. It wasn't an official bike or anything like that. Essentially, it was a guy from London called Andy Hyde. Andy, if you're watching, mate, thanks for those years. Had a private 250, just ran out of a garage with a motorhome, and we went to travel Europe and do a load of GPs. So, yeah, it was a full-on privateer. There was no training, or it was just getting your motorhome drive from one event to another, and it was great fun. And looking back, probably was a bit soon. Like, I'd just started doing well in British 125, and then I'm chucked into Grand Prix with 250 World Championship riders. Clearly I wasn't at that level, although I had times where I showed some potential. The bike was definitely private. It was slow, but that didn't matter to me. I was riding with my heroes at the time.
Who was in it that year?
Pretty much the guys I said earlier. So it was Hiroshi Oyama, Shui Oyama, I think Julian Simon, Bautista, Callio, Simoncelli, Lorenzo. All the guys. It was pretty cool. It must have taught me something, but I ended up just crashing a lot because I was trying too hard and trying to force the issue, especially the second year. So that team tried to run me as a regular for the following year in 2007, but they couldn't get the funds together. So after probably 3 or 4 months of waiting, Anthony West was on a Sicilia Aprilia 250, and he vacated the team. So I was given Dorna actually placed me in as Anthony West replacement. So I was a 250 GP regular for the final half of the season, and that was probably a better opportunity with a much better bike. I was on a 2005 factory Aprilia, but in 2007, so 2 years sort of down the line, way good enough to do the job, but I still didn't deliver on it. I just kept crashing too much. I was in an Italian team. One bloke spoke a little bit of pidgin English. I spoke clearly no Italian, and they were just forcing me to ride with rear brake and and I just head fried and just crashed. Best result was 9th in the wet at Donington. But
Was your debrief like a game of charades?
Generally, debrief was learning Italian swear words. Or, things like that.
So what do you mean the back brake? Were you just not going in there and ride? Like, I don't ride with the back brake.
Yeah,
it's interesting that. So it's
the data. I remember looking at
he had data on.
Yeah, remember Roberto Locatelli? Mm-hmm. Remember looking at his data, and just the use of the rear brake to front brake was just so different to what I was doing at the time. I was brought up with a 125. I was just really only front brake and not using any rear, but he would hit rear brake before front, and then when the front releases, the rear gets pushed even harder to make sure the bike stops at apex. And I was wearing the old Daytona boots at the time. You wear them, don't you? And I just could not feel anything with the rear brake, and
you don't, dear.
It was a real difficult time. But
do you ride like that now?
I use the thumb brake now.
What's very interesting is that that was the middle class on a 250. That's exactly the same as how you've got to ride Moto 2 bikes now, even though the bikes are so different. Interesting how that same style's transferred over to a totally a 600 4-stroke. But maybe it's I know superbike riders that use exactly the same thing. I've seen Gwyn Tolley. He's got a very good YouTube channel like explaining.
He said he didn't use in Worlds. He said he never used the back brake.
No,
In one of his YouTubes, he actually said, look, at world level, he never used the back brake. He said, like, as true as I'm saying. Honestly,
the thing I've seen, he was saying when he brakes, as he shuts the throttle, he hits the back brake and then hits the front brake.
Oh, that was at Worlds when he was on the Aprilia. When he won it was the Aprilia, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he went to
Honda,
MotoGP.
Honda and a few other.
Yeah, so he had to go back to the back brake. So are you not one of these BMX jockeys?
I've tried it. I tried it for the first 2 tests this year. I think it's just rider preference, and obviously for me, my automatic natural application of rear brake is just with the thumb. And what I found awkward was places like Alton, where you're going over crests and you're naturally pulling yourself forward. To be applying rear brake with the finger while pulling myself forward just wasn't a sort of natural and comfortable thing. So to push on the thumb brake was a bit more natural for me.
Yeah, but you see, I've got a thumb, but it's for more wheelie control. But how do you use yours to de-accelerate?
No, not really. I'm trying to use it a little bit more, but I don't have great feel with that. For me, mainly the rear brake is for wheelie.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of riders do use the thumb on entry as well.
But you see, loads of people use back brake, but my old man said they're like, like nipples on men's son. They're just for show. You don't use the foot.
For emergency only.
Get on some of that. But that's the thing, though. It's like, I tell you what, there's a lad in Stock 1000. I got speaking to him at Brands. They've made a cable so it's not violating the rules. It's a brilliant idea. Like the BMX layer. Like,
David Allingham's got one, hasn't he?
Is it Allingham as well? Oh, but this...
Shane Richardson, was it?
I think Tom Neve uses one as well now.
Does
on
he?
The Honda.
Really?
He uses a scooter lever anyway.
Aye, so it's like a scooter lever straight through, but then it applies the back brake from the rear. There was a lot. It's going to kill me.
So
now.
going back to the 250 days.
Yeah, sorry.
Which I just couldn't get my head around the rear brake to front brake usage, and I just kept crashing a lot. And cut a long story short, I think I did 6 or 7. I can't remember exactly where, but Donington, Assen, Estoril, Saxon Ring. Anyway, I got to Motegi, which was one of the flyaways which I wanted to at least go to. And I actually remember in the morning warm-up, I was about 10th and Lorenzo was behind me. It was that great picture of Lorenzo.
You just make that sound so normal. Yeah, Lorenzo.
Because it was wet. And actually, I think I crashed in the race and the team said, look, even though they couldn't speak English, not possible to go to Australia. So I had to fly home while they all flew on to Phillip Island. I remember having a few tears in my eyes, thinking that was my time in Grand Prix over, but... Sure, one door closed, one door opened, and the following season I was in Stock 600, chasing the World Superbike guys around. So,
And did you say when you were teammates with Gino?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Gino won the championship when he was like 16 or something, didn't he? I remember him so small on the George White.
Yeah, that was the following year, I think. So that was probably 2009 when he rode for 10K on the George White sponsored Honda. Yeah,
because I remember Gino. I can't remember which way around it was. I think Gino won it when he was like 16, and then Loris Baz won it when he was 15.
So Loris was in when I was in. Me, Gino, and Loris all raced together. Some great names in it at the time. Petrucci.
Yeah, because Petrucci's one of the ones that's made it to MotoGP through like a Super Stock 1000 route, which was very, very unusual.
Is it Gino Ria ex-Super... Your mate Jack Berniger was saying he's Supercross.
I think,
what's
I don't
that
know the exact class, etc., but I know he's brilliant at motocross.
Really?
Yeah.
Because like Jack's obviously he's a motocross man through and through, but... I didn't know Gino Ria was in motocross. Supercross is even higher. So.
I think Gino's one of those a bit like Iden. He's really versatile. A lot of motocross, a lot of motard. He's done pretty much every
discipline.
Yeah.
It was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I seen a video of him at Wilton Mill on a supermoto bike, and he did a few laps with like supermoto style, but like sideways. And then he did one riding exactly the same, but with his knee down. And like this, I remember because I was like really young at the time I was watching, just thinking that is the skill is like unbelievable. But yeah, he's full-time BSB now, isn't he?
Yeah, and World Endurance.
Are you like Billy McCuttley, considering you work together at Triumph? Are you all wheelies and can you? You must be.
Yeah.
You're working at Triumph. You must be.
Yeah, I can have a go at the odd one. I mean, Billy does obviously a lot with the testing rolls and stuff at Bruntingthorpe with Triumph, so he's constantly giving it burnouts and wheelies and skinning her in and all that sort of thing. So Billy is, mainly the showman on the Triumph events, but I have a go at the odd, few stunts, but I'm a bit more liable to make him go wrong than what Billy is.
Oh
So.
God, I know. He's on about doing a wheelie school. We've got the Patreon system for the show, and it's he's got a little idea, and it's great that we're going to try and do a wheelie school of all the patrons. And knowing me, I'm going to get there and just go and clutch out wolf.
Right.
That's it. I'm
Straight
going
off
home.
the
See you later. I've roofed it.
You know the wheelie schools that have a thing that sticks down on the back wheel, so if it goes to flip, it kills the ignition and drops the front. So
Oh, a
you
tilt
can't
switch
actually
kind of thing.
fill. You can't actually flip them. So
I
say that.
Can you fit that on my race bike? That'd be ideal.
I'll tell you one quick
Come on.
question, just before we move on to the Supersport days. Do you know the Grand Prix 250 bikes? If the sort of build price back then to like go into a shop and like build that bike, what sort of money are you talking?
I'm unsure on the build, but I recall them being leased from Aprilia at the time. They weren't actually bought. I think they were on hire. They were leased. But I think it was something like €500,000 or something for the year.
Wow.
Potentially even more. I can't remember the exact figure, but I know it was with $1 million in the phrase. So it was a lot of money. But the memories I have of, every evening at GPs with that team, they would strip the bike down to its last nut and bolt, rebuild it. And you can imagine 11 o'clock at night at Aston when it's dark and they're just revving this 250 up and it spits a flame out when it detonates. It was just heaven. What a bike. Like, for sure, it was one of the best bikes I've ever ridden. It was a proper piece of kit.
Where was your family in all this? Like, at this exact point? Like, was your dad... Did your dad race?
So, yeah, my dad raced a season in the 70s, club racing just for fun.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had an interest in bike racing all his life and road riding.
Yeah.
So when I came along in the late 80s, I was born into watching World Superbikes on the TV as young as I can remember and going on the back of my dad's bikes on the road. Following all the BSBs and World Superbikes from as young as I can remember. And we went to a bike show, like a bike event where the stunts and all that sort of thing, in a place near Manchester called Rawtenstall or Rossendale area. And they had some mini bikes that you could hire and just have a quick, 10-minute go for a tenner or whatever it was. You'll laugh at this. I had a go on it, did really well on it, was quite quick, but I think I crashed on the last lap and I hurt my thumb, or I'd bashed my thumb or something anyway. I rode on the back of Dad's Fireblade all the way home, hanging on with half a hand or whatever it was. I went to hospital the next day and I broke my thumb and I had to have a cast on and all the usual. So it's the usual racer story from the word go, basically.
Good introduction.
Yeah.
It's just mad how you're on the other side, going around the world at this point, competing at GB level. So where was your dad?
So,
has your dad gone with you all this way?
In that sort of phase of my career, Dad had stepped back from any active involvement in running of the bike, etc. And he would just come to some events to watch and be a fan in the spectator area, really. So mum and Dad have always been really supportive. They always come to every event now. However good or bad it is that they're, in fact, sometimes I encourage them not to come when it's not going well, and they're still there. So they must love coming.
I was going to say, do you know the you couldn't buy them bikes back then, so you had to lease them for say €500,000 €500,000 a year.
How the hell did you get the money?
What would as your role as a director of iBuyAnyBikes.com, how much would you give for one these days?
I've seen a few for sale, and they've gone for like £200,000 or £300,000 now. I think Lorenzo's championship winning one or a similar description one was for sale probably a year ago at a posh auction somewhere, and it went for steep money. Yeah. But what a bike!
It's mad, when you think of the money for those bikes, and I seen it was Zarco's. Can you remember the Asia Moto 2 bike that he was like winning races on? That exact bike for, I think it was up for 30 grand. So you can buy that for 30 grand.
Wow.
I think that's up for sale now. So
what a difference!
That's
Same
what I'm saying.
category, 30 grand to 200 grand.
Unbelievable, and it's weird as well how there's some bikes at the moment that are just shooting up. Like this seems to be like specific classic bikes of like a certain era that just seem to be like.
That's the thing. It's all about the era class, isn't it? So it's people who've got the money now that couldn't afford one back then, isn't it? And that's how the market fluctuates. But you tell me, you're a director.
It's your industry. How do you know which ones are gonna? How do you know which ones like are gonna shoot up and which aren't?
You put me on the spot now. Well, with the classic stuff, obviously, I'm a little bit unsure of because I don't have a whole load of history, etc. But I have had or bought to sell a few sort of like 99 R1s, 96 Fireblade, that sort of era. And yeah, the money that they're commanding is going up for sure, especially like restored in original silencers, all that sort of thing. And even though I've been flicking through recently looking for stock for the bike shop, there's some like nice 4X VR ones that are like 10 grand now with low mileage. So you'd pay what 8 or 9 grand for them brand new 22 years ago, and they're still 10 grand now. So yeah, it's coming back.
If you could pick one bike for all put in your dining room, what bike would that be? If you get that, only one. That could
I've
be
got one
anything.
in my dining room. I've got a Ducati 996 in my dining room. In my living room, sorry, yeah.
Nice. What colour?
Red.
Red.
You can't have a Ducati not red.
I know. No, wait. People go for that yellow, strong statement of a yellow one. There you go.
I've said it blooming on air now. It's not many people know, but yeah, I said earlier I was brought up in the early 90s era with Foggy, etc., and it was just all Ducati 916s and 996s, wasn't it? So from an early age, I had like a thing about that Ducati 916, 996 styling. And I always said, I've got to have one of those one day. And one came up, via work about a year ago now, and I thought, I'm going to have that.
Damn right. That's it. So I was about to say, because like people always say, like, once a Ducati man, always a Ducati man.
I've not ridden it.
No. I mean, you haven't ridden it there, then. So would you hop on a Ducati now? If you had money, was an absolute abundance, someone went, Dan, I wanted to set up a superbike team, would you go for a Ducati?
Clearly, they're a strong bike, but
not as strong as the Yamaha at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. Last year I had a track bike which was a V4S, so it was a 2018 V4S. And actually, this is interesting. I bought it in track bike trim, but with a bodywork that had no wings. And I did 3 or 4, coaching days or events on it. And then I thought, out of interest, I'll stick the R bodywork on with the wings to feel a difference. And it completely transformed it. It was really, really interesting.
I've asked Sam a question like 10, 15 times, and I just get the same response. Nah, I'm not really sure.
But you've got to ride it without, haven't you? That's the big thing. You've got to ride the same bike without the aero and same bike with the aero.
Are you talking about just in terms of prevent the wheelie or like actual in the corner feeling?
No, high speed stuff for sure. So it was at Croft, the fast S is out the back. When the bike's in at high speed, it just stayed down and turned at high speed. And when you pick the throttle up to complete the corner, instead of just picking up and running away, it sort of kept on the line you wanted it to be on. The high-speed steering was a lot heavier. Dragging it up and over was heavier.
All right.
But the biggest difference was accelerating out the last hairpin where naturally it just wanted to rear up. It just seemed to stay low and drive forward.
And you're maybe not the best person to ask because you've not raced there, but do you think it's going to be a big step forward on the road, like TT? Or do you think it could be a hindrance?
I really don't know.
Difficult to say.
What about around Macau?
Probably a deficit with the long straights.
Jesus, they are. Take off, fly over a casino.
And a lot of, obviously, quite a high-speed direction changes out the back in Macau, so with it being a bit heavier. But I think it's not, obviously, it's not going to give you 2 seconds a lap.
Yeah.
It's going to give you a small amount. And if you've not ridden without it, you don't even know the difference. So.
What's the verdict on the sweets then?
Oh, fuck, no, mate, I'm literally planning on the way now.
She's nearly gone, Carly.
She's done a cracking job, your missus, so get in touch. There you are.
Did you meet the missus through the racing, or is that something totally separate?
At a diabetes convention.
Actually, sort of through racing. So, I had that, going back to 2005 when my mum and dad were running me on a 125, we had a fundraising evening at a local biker cafe. And through a friend of a friend, Carly's dad brought her. I was only 15 at the time, I'd not even done anything with a woman at the time. And I remember writing this card saying, "You are fit, I fancy you," all that sort of kiddie love. Anyway, it would have been 4 years later when I was in hospital after a crash and qualifying at Snetterton when I was doing British Super Sport. Just got this random, message from her on Facebook. "Oh, seen that you're injured. Hope you're okay." I'm like, "God, yeah, she's fit. Like, I'll have a bit of that." So yeah, you fancy meeting up? Went to meet her at a university. Clearly, still had a thing for her and got to go from there. So she was nothing to do with racing. She was studying nursing at the time at Sheffield Uni, so I'd commute to Sheffield pretty much once or twice a week. And yeah, we're away now. We've been married 18 months and together probably 11, 12 years now.
Hey, congratulations. I know you've got, is it one kid or?
Got 2 now, so we've got a 5-year-old and a 5-month-old.
Because I remember
which manufacturer are they? Boy and a girl?
No, girl and girl.
Girl and girl, there.
2 girls.
Well, we're going to do a podcast about 5 months ago, and I remember it was either speaking to you or Michael, and it was like, I think the missus was due like that week.
That's
so
right, I remember texting you about it, because we're on about a specific night, and I was like, no, the missus is already like 5 days overdue, I can't come up that night.
I just had visions of start 3, 2, oop, I've got to go, sorry.
Yeah, imagine that, yeah, no, yeah, not ideal. So no, home life is busy, to be fair. It's they're the best and worst things in the same tin, aren't they? You know, but it's great. You know, whether you've had a good day at racing or a bad day at racing, and you come home and they have a smile on their face, all you worry is just go. So, yeah, it's good.
Good stuff. That just reminds us of. I remember I'd once had a terror. I don't have any kids myself, but I've got a little niece. And at the time, she must have only been like really small. And I'd had a rubbish weekend racing at Oulton Park. And I was, do you know when you've just had bad result and it really affects, like you just feel rubbish. And as I got to jump in, Betty asked to come home with me. So I was like, yeah, cool. And I thought to myself, well, she might. And I remember like she was just dead buzzing and sat there smiling. And I said, oh, did you watch the race today? And she said, yeah. And I said, where did I come? And she just, do you know, like I was really bothered about the fact I hadn't done very well. And instantly she just had no idea where I'd finished. She'd watched the race and she was shouting for us, but she just had no idea, and it just gave us a much better perspective. It instantly just made us feel loads better.
And it's that I mean, it's like when you're at racing is your absolute world, and you don't even get a chance to think about family at home. When you come home on a Sunday night, whether you've finished first or finished 10th, you don't even think about racing. It's just you realise sort of how important racing is when you get home. It's a weird feeling. Yeah. It's nice to have the blend of the two.
Yeah. Canny. Well, we got up to just into the 600s, the 4-stroke era in European Superstock 600. That championship doesn't even exist anymore, which I think is a shame as well, because in the World Championships you've got the World, they call it the Junior Supersport, which is like the 400 class, but there's the 300s, 390s. There's loads of different CC engines in that class, and they are very much like kids' bikes, like kids ride them, but they're like commuting bikes, and it's such a massive jump from there to super sport. And not so long ago, when World Superbikes were at Donington, they had Tom Booth Amos, who I think is either leading the championship or somewhere up the front, and Shaky was speaking to him and kind of saying, well, what's next? And for me, the jump between that and World Supersport is massive. Where
didn't he come from that? Amos?
No, he was doing Moto 3, and then he's doing
in the UK.
But the thing is, like say, I think Tom's the same age as me, 25, and there's in the UK there's like 13-year-olds or 14-year-olds riding them bikes, and from there it's just such a massive jump to World Supersport. The European Superstock 600 used to be a perfect platform in between. Getting on a 600, not as competitive as World Supersport, but at least you went to all the European rounds and it was blooming competitive. And after a year or two of that and getting towards the front, you were then ready for maybe the top 10 in World Supersport. So it was an in-between gap. But for me, there's no progression from
Junior Supersport to World Super. Yeah,
it would be like basically having World Supersport's similar sort of competition to, or has been in the past, to say British Superbikes. So it's basically like having World Junior in the BSB Paddock. Imagine if you had Junior Supersport on 400s, and then the next class was like say BSB in terms of level of difficulty. That would be
I'd tune in to watch that, to be fair. Like, you know what I mean? Like, imagine that. Just get off that lap, son. Right, that's a BMW. That's a big BMW.
The thing is, though, do you know, as you build up the levels, there's a lot to learn from the 400s to like say a super 600 or 1000, and you sort of gradually build up, and your body changes, and you get older, and you get used to the speed, and you get used to like sort of sliding the bikes and stuff like that. The 400s are like pretty much, especially on the European tracks, they're pretty much pinned. So you get a group of like 25 of them that have pretty much all got the same pace and all slipstreaming and whatever. You get to a point where you've learned the maximum, and say if Tom does that for another 2 years, another 3 years, it's virtually impossible to build your skills on that bike.
Yeah. No, I get that 100%.
I think it's a problem with the World Championship at the moment. They need something to fill that gap.
Yeah, going back to the stock 600 being a closer stepping stone to World Supersport, yeah, I absolutely get that. And that showed, Gino at the time went from stock 600 into World Supersport and was quite strong pretty much straight away.
He was like an iconic thing of getting your elbow down. He was like one of the first ones to be like
with
in
a hand
class.
In the air.
Yeah, really stylish, proper cool, and he was like a bit of a child prodigy, really. Him and Loris at the time. When how did you compare?
I finished 5th in 2008, and I won I think 2 or 3 races. I won at Assen, I won in Manicourt, but didn't really have the consistency to put a championship challenge in together. Really, I had one round where I didn't even get to start because the engine had blown. So yeah, strange, inconsistent year really, but really enjoyed it. It was first year on a 4-stroke, so going from a 252 stroke to a 600 4-stroke, I had a lot more fun immediately because the bike was backing in, and you had a lot more sort of feeling, understanding from the bike than what you did with a 2-stroke. And yeah, following World Superbike round, was great. At that point, my plan was, or my ideal plan was, to try and get into World Supersport. When the team, split in the end, Gino went with Andy and I went with Richard. I didn't get the chance to pursue the World Supersport dream, if you like, at the time. So we came back to We chose to go to British Supersport with a view of trying to get into BSB.
What, realistically, at that point, how many options were open? You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about like paid rides or anything like that. Was it like how many?
Nothing to be paid. Absolutely. I had to pay.
Oh no! Oh God! Yeah. I know. I mean, at at Worlds, you're thinking, how much was a World ride going to cost you at that point in Supersport?
I think it was 200,000, 150,000.
Similar to now,
it blows my mind that I'm lucky to pull in $5,000 a year. Anything? How do people do it? Obviously, they can ride a bike and I can't. That's the realistic side of it. But it's still, you know what I mean? How do you pick up
a sponsor to fund that?
Yeah. Well, no, but at that point, you must have been sitting down with your family, going, right, well, how are we going to go about getting $200,000? That was a realistic. That would have gone through your mind a million times over at that point.
To be honest, it wasn't, because there was never an option to do that. It was literally, if you have to find that, then I'm not racing. I'm going back to work with Dad, fitting cabinets or joinery. And then the guy from the Stonebaker team who was supporting me managed to come up with an agreement with Rob Mack to place me in that team, to pay for me to ride in that team. And I think it was a good move. I wanted to try and get into BSB, but I'd not even done one season in the UK on a 600, so I couldn't just go straight into Superbike. I had to do a year or two in Supersport. Yeah. So 2009 was joining Rob Mack's team. You might remember it was a Northwest 200 Coca-Cola Zero coloured red and white R6 with Michael Rutter. I loved it, to be fair. We started off really strong. Had a few podiums early on. I think Thruxton, Brands, but I crashed at Snetterton on my last lap in qualifying, and that's my foot. I broke all the bones across the top of my foot. So I was out. Yeah, all four. I was out from June till end of August, I think. June till mid-August. So pretty much that wrote that year off in terms of a championship challenge. So we just tried to focus on the next step, which was to try and get on a superbike. So Rob agreed to put me out on a superbike for the last two events of 2009. But at the time they had Chris Walker and Graham Gowland on their Big Bang. I'm not going to be hard about it, but it was a horrible bike to ride it. But I didn't know a good one from a bad one at the time. It was my very first time on a superbike. But from what Chris was saying and what Michael Rutter said earlier in the year, it was a really difficult bike. So yeah, I had my first two events on a superbike. Real big eye opener in 2009.
Was that the Motorpoint when it was?
So they were on the Motorpoint one. I was on the orange coloured one, but it was the Motorpoint Yamaha team. Yeah.
So, a lot of riders had a chance on that. I remember Baz came over. Alex Lowe's was on it.
Yeah. Bridewell Westy did at one point,
and it never seemed to sort of get the results that you would think those riders deserved.
So the following year, so that was the end of 2009 when I had two rounds. For the following year, we agreed to do the full year with Rob Mack on the Motorpoint Yamaha, but they actually were able to buy Leon Camia and Ellison's championship winning bikes from the year before, which were in GSE colours, and they were dead excited about it, to be fair, and obviously they should be because they were championship winning bikes. But I think behind the scenes, the Camia was on Magnetic Morelli electronics. Then when Rob got it, he put Motec on and different engine spec, and although the bike was still great, the bike was really, really good over a lap or two with new tyres. But I, in my relatively new superbike experience, didn't really have the speed or feel or whatever to manage that over a race distance. So generally I'd start strong and fade and fade and fade and not be able to manage the grip. And actually looking back over the following probably year or two, most riders that rode the bike did the same. They always had a real good qualifying and good early laps, but never really kept that pace up to the end of the race. So, but it was what it was. It was my learning year in superbike. I just wanted to do the full year, learn all the tracks on the superbike, try and establish myself as a bit of a future BSB rider and keep riding the superbike to improve my results year on year.
And at this point, we having to approach like sort of personal sponsors to bring money to a team to sort of...
Yeah, so the ride was actually paid for in full by one sponsor at the time. The guy that broke off with the Stonebaker team the year before. A guy from Manchester called Richard Baker, who I'm gratefully thankful for. You know, he got me started in BSB, if you like, and I try to keep in touch with him as much as I can do now. He's busy off doing his things, but so that was my first season sort of Superbike paid for in terms of the ride. You know, everything else I had to try and sort myself, but in the scheme of things, that was very little. So yeah, difficult year. I had some good qualifyings. I had a lot of crashes. Not going to lie, it was tough with Rob because Rob was quite hard on me at times.
Was that a good thing looking back or a bad thing?
No, I think it scarred me for a little bit, to be honest. I was quite a pale-faced, quiet Yorkshireman that didn't really say much and just took the bollocking, if you like. And I love Rob to bits. He was great away from the track, but at the track I think he had some stresses, and obviously it was costing a lot of money, etc. And I got quite a lot of dressings down that year, tellings off, shall we say. So, but hey, it was part of it. I wouldn't choose to run my team like that, but Rob obviously had some stresses going on. And yeah, we didn't have the successes we should have done. Obviously, on the other side of the garage, we started off with Neil Hodson, and he retired after like 1 or 2 rounds at the start of.
Weirdly enough, I was actually stood at Graham Hill Bend when he high-sided, and I think he had a shoulder injury, and it sort of reflamed that up, and he actually had to pull out from racing.
He retired completely after that.
I remember,
so there were some stresses on the other side. You know, Neil was supposed to be the flagship championship man, and he had to retire. And then I think they brought in. Well, we had a few. We had Ian Lowry, we had Andrew Pitt, and then we had Laura Spaz at the end of the year. So they were just trying to find someone to fill the void. We didn't go any further after that year. You know, I'd had my sort of learning experience, if you like, and my sponsor didn't want to continue, paying that sort of money. So for the following year, pretty much just tried to get on anything I could in British Superbike. I ended up with SMT Honda, a guy called Robin Croft from up north, from Morecambe area.
Mm-hmm. North.
Yeah, up north.
Morecambe, north.
Is it SMT? Was Alec T involved with SMT? Yeah, and was it sorrymate.com?
That's the one.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's the one.
White and red.
That's it. Yeah.
And how did that go?
Yeah, it was a step forward in general. I had some better results. I think I had some 4th and 5th that year. But these were probably I'm not going to say confused, but they were strange years because I was still bringing some money to the team, nowhere near what we'd paid Rob Mack the year before. And the bike, in my opinion, was missing some electronic parts, and we were struggling, and there was some payments due. Anyway, after sort of 4 or 5 rounds, we just agreed to stop. And I moved to a championship in Spain doing Moto 2. You asked about Michelin tyres earlier. I raced a Harris Moto 2 bike in the Spanish championship for the rest of 2011.
How did that come about?
There's a guy from Olins, Richard Brendish?
Yeah.
He was part of the team at the time with a wealthy German lady, actually, who lived in Spain. Yeah. Needed a rider, and I went for a test. Liked the bike. I'd split with my BSB team. So I just said, I'll continue. It was a free ride. I needed a ride. I'd split from my BSB team. So I did the last 4 or 5 CEV rounds. I got a podium in Jerez and a 4th in Valencia, I think.
That's outstanding.
I looked at doing the CEV Moto 2 Championship years and years ago, and back then I think you could get it was 7 rounds at the time, and I think that for like a half decent ride it was similar to like sort of 200 grand or 100.
For 7 rounds, that's
crazy money when you when you break it down into round by round. And I went over to Jerez before I knew how much the rides were. I was just sort of I was gonna see what teams win it and sort of speak to a few people and see if there was any opportunities. And I remember being like startled by the fact. So I arrived at Jerez. I sort of had a preconception of what it was going to be like, because I was thinking the sport's massive in Spain. They're like bike mad. So like their sort of BSB equivalent, their national championship CV. I was kind of expecting to go in and like the grandstands around the back end of the track. I thought like there'd be like a decent crowd, and like the riders would be like quite well known and stuff. And I got there and there was no queue to get in, so I thought, oh, that's a bit odd. And when I got there, there was less people there than a Thundersport meeting.
And I bet you find that they were more interested in the 125 race or the Moto 3 style 125 race than they were in the main race.
That's another thing. I'm driving around around Jerez. There's 50% youth unemployment or whatever. It's very much in terms of the roads and the houses and stuff. It's quite a poor area. And then you drive into this sort of into the track and you look down pit lane and there's hundreds of kids riding 70, 80, 90,000 pound motorbikes. And it's and there's no crowd there. It's not like a commercial, you say BSB, you can see there's a lot of money goes in and there's a lot of money comes in and out, and you can sort of, know what I mean? It's like a proper event. CVs, you didn't have to pay to go there, so it's not like they were trying to make money, the championship, but the money to compete just seemed to be outrageous.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then on that note, you can see why fast kids come out of Spain, because the smaller classes are just inundated with fast Spanish kids.
Well, the pace, car parks and all sorts, aren't they?
The pace was in the Moto 3 was very similar to the World
Championship.
Yeah. But with no crowd. That's what sort of blew my mind a little bit. But who was racing Moto 2 that year? Was there anyone?
I remember Kev Coughlin was in it.
Oh yeah. He still lives in Barcelona, and he's Scottish.
He does. I think he works with the academy, the Monlau place. Yeah. There was Isaac Vinales.
Oh yeah.
There was.
Is he Maverick's cousin or something?
Yeah, Maverick's cousin. Yeah.
Where's he gone? Sorry, interrupting. What's Vinales doing? Is he on Aprilia now?
No, he's still on the Yamaha.
Right.
But he's announced that he's not going to be with them for next year.
But no one knows where he's going or anything
knows,
like that.
Yeah. Still up in air a bit, isn't it?
Sorry, carry on.
So yeah, no, that was it filled a void.
Yeah.
And I think actually I realised after them 4 or 5 races in Spain that I need to be in BSB if I want to try and make a career out of bike racing. I've tried the Spanish route essentially. I'm not going to get into Grand Prix. I've been in Grand Prix and that failed 4 years ago. I need to go to BSB. I need to dig in, no matter how tough it is, and try and do that. So, end of 2011, I contacted some BSB teams, and Stuart Hicken from Build-Based BMW was keen. So, yeah, we pretty much just shook hands on a free ride there and then and went BSB racing. But what I want to say is, I was a different guy then to what I am now. Clearly, I was a lot younger, but I was still quite immature, quite made quick decisions, a bit hasty, and I regret that now. I've calmed down a little bit now. I think about things a lot more, etc. So when I split with SMT the year before, I felt a little bit bad in that it was a hasty decision. And yeah, a similar thing happened in 2012 when I joined the Build-Based team to try and make my go in BSB. I crashed at Knock Hill in practice, I think, and I broke my hand, or a couple of bones in my hand. And I hadn't been getting on that well with Stuart Hicken at the time. He was, there was some team stuff going on, and basically I just didn't want to continue. I didn't feel comfortable in the team, so I left there and then, and I was able to ride a World Supersport bike for the guy that I raced in Stock 600 for in 2008. I know this is a boring sort of long story, but they had a load of money from India. You might remember the Mahi Kawasaki team. So it was funded by a very famous cricket player in India called Mahindra Singh Dhoni, MSD, one of the captain of the Indian cricket team, who apparently had put a load of money into this Indian World Supersport team that was being ran out of England by Andrew Stone, who I rode for in 2008. So I stopped the BSB thing with Build Base to do this World Supersport thing, and I had half a season at that. So these are very mixed years. These are me trying to find my direction without paying or trying to earn something along the way. I did Silverstone, Moscow, which was a good one. Nürburgring.
Moscow, Russia, Moscow.
Yeah.
I had no idea they rode motorcycles out there.
And
that's incredible.
And the last race in Manicourt, which I'd previously won at in Stock 600, I finished third in World Supersport. I don't know if you remember, there was a bit of a coming together with Sofoglu and myself on the last lap or second to last lap.
Yeah. He took you out, didn't
he? He just took me clean out. But to be fair, he was coming like a train. I was sat in third quite comfortably, and he was coming at me fast. And I think he was a little bit exuberant to try and get past quickly, and he just T-boned me basically.
Is this on YouTube?
It might be somewhere.
Well, find it. Grace will find it.
And anyway, I remember because I was so set in my BSB ways of can't rejoin the race, you're out. But it suddenly clicked. Oh shit, I am World Supersport. I can rejoin the race. So I I was busy waving at him and gesturing. I thought, oh, shit, I can get back on. So I quickly got back on. There was no gear lever or something, and I just nursed it home and crossed the line in 4th, I think, at the time. But then they took 20 seconds off him because of him knocking me off, and I got put on the podium. So yeah, I got some just rewards that day for.
Could you knock him out? If he walked in here now, could you knock out Sofoglu?
Did he apologise?
He did, yeah.
No, could you knock him out?
I'm not that sort of man.
I know you're not, but could you knock him out? I just want to know, because he looks like an angry little man, doesn't
He
he?
does look angry, to be fair.
If he walked in here
But
now...
then he comes up to you with his really high voice, and you're, whoa. It's a little bit.
Interesting.
What
I'm organising a charity fight boxing match for all races, so
Yeah.
I'll get on the phone to him. And do you want to settle this?
I'm quite interested. What did he say?
So he came up to me and he says, oh, yeah, I can't remember the exact words, in his half Turkish accent, but I sorry, I try this. And
Silly Yorkshire man.
yeah, there was an apology in there somewhere, which I was like, okay. I wasn't too bothered because I got the podium and all I wanted was the podium. And as it happened, the team that I was with, the Indian team, I was pushing to try and sign the contract with him for the next year for a full World Supersport ride in what would be 2013. But they had abundance of money and they signed Sofoglu and Fabian Foray. So it was pretty much, hey Dan, you're out on your way again. So I had to, I'm not going to say come back with my tail behind my legs, but I had to find another ride in BSB and this time stay in BSB and not piss around, if you want to call it
to
that.
go to World Supersport and get a
On the
podium
podium.
and be up there, it's no mean feat, and you must have been pretty close to getting a full time ride. But again, we were talking about this the other week. Now World Supersport, it used like a good amount of riders used to make a living doing it. Where
Yeah.
now I think Jack said there was one rider that makes a living now who actually gets paid from the team. Others might take money and then take a cut back type of thing, but
Yeah.
there's actually only one ride that's. And you just think it's like,
Yeah. Back then there was I don't know figures, but there was a load of riders on good money. Sofoglu, Foray, Broad Parks. There was
Sofoglu. I heard. I don't know if this is fact, but I heard a rumor. Sofoglu was at one point was actually the most well-paid person in the whole paddock when he was doing World Supersport. And back in Turkey, Sofoglu is like a national
the
treasure.
celebrity.
Yeah, huge. He's top mate. He's actually in the Turkish government, but he's top mates with the sort of president of Turkey. He's like very, very well respected and extremely wealthy.
Yeah, I've seen some instas of his house and his.
Have you seen his house? It is
Wow.
unbelievable.
Please tell me your tour goes by that village.
My what?
Your tour, your business tour you go through. And then Sofoglu going like that. Remember when I knocked you off? And you were like, yeah, mate.
There's one to arrange. So yeah, another career highlight, if you want to put it like that. I mean, I feel like it could have been more if I'd continued the following year. And prior to that, we had like a 12th, a 10th, a 7th, and a 3rd, so we were going the right way, 100%. But yeah, they took Fabian and Keenan, which fair play to them. They wanted to be serious about it.
Since you then, who's been the closest Brit who's done that then in Worlds?
Oh, Sam Lowe's won.
Sam Lowe's,
Yeah.
right? Who else?
Who's won? I don't really know.
I've not a great deal of.
That's what I mean. It's you know what you think
Brits
about.
in. I mean, at the moment we've got Dan.
Stapleford did a bit, didn't he?
Now, I was wanting to say Staleford because he was a Triumph man, wasn't he?
Yeah.
In World Super Sport over here because he lifts his leg off.
Yeah.
Now wasn't he out in Stock 1000 where you were Thugston?
He took his own team out and
Yeah,
he
that's
got a
right.
pole position at Qatar. But yeah, this weekend he was stepping in Super Stock 1000 and he almost won the race, broke the lap record.
Yeah, 15.9, eh?
15.9 on a stocker is like ridiculous.
Fair play.
Like Jason.
You're on Superbike, aren't you?
Jason,
You're on Superbike.
Jason dominated superbikes, and I think he was doing low 15s, wasn't he? So on slicks, on a superbike, and for Stapleford to do that on treaded tyres, it is impressive. Especially bear in mind he's just been doing a few Emirates. He's not really like we've all been racing like competitively BSB. So
Emirates.
East Midlands Racing Association. It's just like a
So
club
just
race.
club racing down there. So why is he not?
Basically, just keeping his hand
I
in.
think he's
Basically,
just having a bit of fun.
Oh no, but I mean, is he step? Oh yeah, he was retired, wasn't he? Stepped. How old is he? He doesn't look old enough to be retiring.
I'm not too sure. He must be late 20s.
Yeah, he's not
Maybe
old
even
anyway,
early
but I think he'll have done himself the world of good.
Absolutely.
And
I quite like that
Yeah.
you've been, working with the family business, whatever, and I know he's had his dad passed away, didn't he? Unfortunately, Pete.
Right.
And I love the fact that he just come out and had a go and blooming stuck it on pole and nearly won it. So it was quite good, really.
Where did he finish in the race? And I haven't actually watched yours.
2 seconds.
Second.
I think. Yeah. Close seconds
Jesus.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But unbelievably impressive. But yeah, back. So you ended up going back to superbikes.
So yes, so that took us to the end of 2012. I was taken to India for a big press launch and all the hoo-ha, and then didn't get the ride. And then so I thought, right, I've got to come back to the UK and I've got to stick at it, and I can't be swapping and changing with teams. There was I contacted Mark Smith-Halverson from GB Moto, and I think he had Tristan Palmer and someone else.
Luke Quigley.
That's it, in 2012, and they were looking to, make a step or whatever, so contacted him. I said, look, I want to come back to the UK, I want to push on in Superbike, and they were keen to have me, so that was 2013, did the full season with them. No chopping and changing, however tough it got. I'll put it politely, I think I was taken out at round 1 at Brands.
Keith.
Yeah. I had a phone call with him. He think he didn't do anything. Anyway, it's water under the bridge now. I believe that Keith tagged me at exiting Druids on the last lap of race 2, or race 1 or race 2 at Brands anyway. And my good friend James Westmoreland was right behind. I'd nowhere to go, and just ran straight over me and my body, and I broke my pelvis.
Oh, yeah.
So luckily it wasn't shattered. It wasn't destroyed. It was just multiple cracks, and I just essentially had 6, 7, 8 weeks bed rest. And I came back for Knockhill, which was about round 4 or 5, and then did the rest of the year just building.
We had Mark Smith-Halverson and his son Max on the podcast not so long ago, and he always come across as a great bloke to me. What was he like to work for?
I like Mark. He's normally very happy, very jolly, very fun, good banter. But again, a little bit like the Rob Mack situation from a couple of years previous, there must be stresses financing the team, putting X amount of money in, results up and down, etc. So there was some tough times and days, and there were some good times and days. Generally, he made it fun, but we didn't succeed to the point or to the level that we all expected we should have done. And Peter Hickman was my teammate, and I missed 3 or 4 rounds due to the pelvis injury. And I came back, and I believe we both finished 11th and 12th in the championship, or around that, maybe like 10 points between us. So for us to finish so equally after me missing a chunk of races, I was relatively pleased with, although they're positions really that just you don't register with, you don't aim to finish 11th or 12th. But I did the full year, I gave my best, and I knew I was capable of more, but it was that difficult situation of trying to find the best ride possible, to not paying or to trying to earn something, etc. It was just that crossover period really of going from doing it for fun to trying to make a career out of it. And my end goal was always to try and make a career out of racing bikes.
Yeah.
So that winter, they were looking to make another step with their team. I wanted to ride the bike again from the following year, but they changed to Kawasaki's, and I think part of that agreement they had to take Chris Walker, who had been with the Quattro plant team in 13. So they signed Walker and James Ellison, and I thought, well, if Chris has vacated a bike, I'll call Quattro plant team and see whether I can get on that bike. So I called Pete Extons. So look, I'm after a ride. I'm not with the GB guys. I want to push on in BSB. Do you have a seat? And there was a real quick, what do you need? What's the deal? We settled on like 500 quid a round or something, and I was paid 500 quid a race plus a little bonus. And what that turned out to be probably the year that I'm not saying made me. I've not made anything, but
it was definitely a step forward.
Yeah, it thrust me into the more serious side of British Superbikes, because it was a great year. I worked with Ray Stringer. I love Ray, still love Ray. It was just a mega year. You must know Pete Extons.
Yeah.
Great team boss, so chilled, calm. Yeah, I've got a lot of time for them both. We finished every race that year in the points. So I think I was the only one to finish every race of the year, and I made the showdown. I think I finished 5th overall in the championship, and I was just 4th, 4th, 5th, 4th, 5th, 4th, 6th, 4th, just all year. And I had one podium at Alton, which was probably like round 9. And yeah, great times.
Here's a question for you. Did you ever get frustrated at the fact that, like, say in the showdown, all the people you were sort of surrounded by, and did you mentioned earlier you were, like, say, getting £500 a weekend, which would basically cover your fuel and, like, very minimum, like, you're not making money there, are you? You're like sort of covering sort of costs. Did you ever get frustrated at the fact that, like, you felt like you were sort of beating people who were maybe, getting a car and like a good salary and whatever?
I did, and that's what I wanted to get to, but I knew from where I'd come from, and as in, the 2 years previous where I chopped and changed, maybe teams were looking at me thinking, well, he's not serious, he's chopping and changing between teams. I knew I had to just get a result on the board, so to speak, or a championship result on the board. And then if I was to get a good ride off the back of that, then hopefully there'd be what the other guys are on, included in that. So yeah, it was frustrating being paid £500 a race and being, finishing around Keogh, Shaky, etc. But that had to be the year that thrusted me into, contention in BSB for following seasons. And if it didn't, it would have been game over. I think it was, pretty much that knife edge time. Whereas if that year didn't go as it did, I would have probably just accepted that I ain't going to make a career out of it and try and go racing for a bit of fun. So yeah, really thankful to Pete and Ray for that year. That was really good fun. And the most difficult part of that year was mentally going from finishing 6th, 8th to battling with Keogh and Shaky and actually settling down. I'm not going to say I didn't beat them every weekend, but I would regularly fight with them at times, and mentally then going, right, I'm one of these guys now, I've got to try and beat them, or I'm as good as them, or don't let them beat you. That was probably the hardest thing, was believing that you're as good as them. And probably one of my weaker areas anyway. I'm quite a realistic, honest guy in everything. I'll say what I think. I won't lie or anything, and that's probably my downfall up to now, has been on the mental side. I'd say is the outright belief. So that was like a crossover point of going, right, I'm as good as these guys now, I've got to believe that I'm as good as them. And I think it was Silverstone, probably 1 or 2 rounds before the end of the year, I'd confirmed my showdown place. I think I'd finished 4th and 4th at Silverstone, and there was some communication going on with Birdie at the time. He was keen to just have a chat, see where I was for the following year, and I went to his place, had a chat with him. They were looking to have a rider line, a change up, so I'd made him aware that I was at least keen to be one of the names in the fray. And Harvey from Honda called the day after Silverstone. He said, it's Harvey from Honda, I'm just testing the water to see what your plans are for next year. Are you available? I was like, am I available? Yeah, I'm available. Yeah. That sort of thing.
I'm
Possibly.
I'm busy Thursday, Tuesday, anything between that. Fantastic.
You sat there like. So yeah, it was a bit of a dream call really, and I just had to try and keep calm. And said, look, yeah, sure, interested. Let's have a chat. So I went to have a meeting with them over near Louth. Tuxworth turned up, Half turned up, and they just said, look, we're coming back to British Super. They'd had a year out. I don't know if you remember. Alex Lowe's won in 13, and the Julian Da Costa rode it once or twice in 14 to do some development rides in BSB. And they said they're coming back in 15. We've got no riders. Would you like to be a rider? This is the contract, or this is the letter of intent that we're preparing to offer you. So yeah, I was just trying to keep calm with it really, and I knew I wanted to do it straight away. I was always in awe of that team in HM Plant days. It was the team you aspire to be part of. So I remember driving home, ringing Mum, saying, look, I've got this, I really want to do it. It's everything I've ever wanted, everything I've ever dreamed of, so I've got to do it. So yeah, pretty much rang him back straight away and said, yeah, I'll do it. Agreed the date to go and sign the letter. And the hardest thing was actually telling Pete Extons that I wasn't going to continue, because they'd been the ones that had given me the opportunity with the solid bike and team to put me in that position. And he wanted to have me again for the following year, and they were discussing contracts and figures, etc. They're not big figures, we're not talking big money, but we're talking money to be paid racing at least. And I felt bad to let them down. They'd given me that opportunity, and I would like to have continued with them, but I couldn't turn down the Honda way really. So
when you're just speaking there about the sort of mental side, have you ever had sort of a coach or a mentor, or I know you've
rider coaches, aren't they? Yeah.
You've mentioned a few times you've maybe regrettably not had a manager. Have you had anybody in that sort of frame that's sort of guided you?
What, mentally or management?
But just both really.
Management, I had do you remember Ian Edwards from Brembo? In the Brembo UK.
Oh, Ian, yeah.
He didn't, manage me, officially doing contracts, etc. But he advised me a lot. Yeah. So back in the 06, 7, 8 time, where it was literally just me going racing, he was my phone call to say, hey, what do you think? So he was the guy that I would discuss things with a lot. On the mental side, we're in 2014, 15 at this point. The end of 16 I think it was, midway through 16 and 17 I think it was, I went to see a sports psychologist in London. Have you ever read The Chimp Paradox?
Yeah.
It's from that book. So it wasn't Steve Peters obviously, but it was one of Steve Peters' workers. I went to have some sessions with him in London. It came about because when I've won my first race at Silverstone for Honda in the wet, bear in mind I'd not won ever. I won my wet race, which was a little bit of a fluke, if I'm honest. I'm fast forwarding here to 17, so we'll probably cover the gap after. I won the wet race at Silverstone where a few guys crashed. So I would say there was probably a scenario there that I was strong in the race, but a few guys crashed out, which almost handed me the victory in the race, which was my first ever win. Well, I'd never had a win. I was buzzing, I was absolutely peaking. So obviously I had some confidence. The next weekend I went to Alton BSB, and there was a wet race which I disappeared up the road by like 10 seconds, but then the bike broke. And the second race was a dry race, and that was my battle with Haslam, which I won on the last lap. And I remember lining up on the grid, and I just said to myself, no one's beating me today. I'm winning, and that's just how it is because of the breakdown earlier in the day. And I remember saying to Harv, the team boss from Honda, whatever I had on the grid that day, I need every day. And if that means I have to go see a sports psychologist, I'm going to see one. So pretty much the next week I went to see the sports psychologist and worked with him. I didn't say worked with him. I'd make a trip to London probably once a fortnight between races just to have a 2 or 3 hour sit down, which was interesting. But I'm not too sure if it brought anything.
Interesting.
But I'm dead sure that the mental side is part of my weakness.
Right.
Especially then, being in the big team that wanted results.
Yeah, massive team that wants the results, yeah.
And I, like I said earlier, I say things as it is. If that's a weakness and I need to fix it, I'll try to go fix it. So yeah, I had some mental coaching. Not much, probably 5-6 sessions. Yeah. It stopped because the following year, 18, I got injured 3 times, and I was off the bike more than I was on the bike, so I chose not to continue.
Just speaking of that time where you won the wet race, you then you should have won that other wet race and smoked everyone, and then that confidence then brought in, and you won the dry race. It's very interesting when you look at just BSB results over the years. There's times when some riders, like for example Bradley Ray, the beginning of that season, he went out, smoked everyone at Donington, went to Brands, smoked everyone there, and then in all the years since then, he's not replicated those 2 rounds. Kyle Ryde last year at Silverstone went and smoked everyone, and then
Donington Park did the same thing.
Same thing at Donington. Those are just 2 names I can think of, but there's hundreds and hundreds of examples where riders seem to build up, just get to the top, win a race, and then consolidate, and you think they've made that.
They're
step.
away now. They're on the way.
I think our sport is so difficult that when you
Look
make
at
that step.
Andrew Irwin at the moment.
Andy Irwin's another one at Thruxton. Made that. Well, to be fair, quite a lot. It wasn't just a one-off last year. It's such a difficult sport that sometimes do you know that back to that thing that Colin Wright said about the waves?
Yeah.
And you basically everyone's on the water surfing, and then but everyone gets a wave at some point, but it's then trying to just
riding the wave.
And that's the sort of skill. But
absolutely,
it's such a mad sport. And when you think, there's times where just people can be so similar at different times in their careers, and then they diverge. And sometimes you think, I tell you one thing that's really interesting is because I've been in the same championship sort of thing all the way through. Bradley Ray and Kyle Ryde started out in mini bikes and metro kits. So my first ever experience tarmac racing was down at Wilton Mill, 2008 it was. And there was these 2 tiny little kids that were head and shoulders above everyone. And back then, Brad always had the edge on Kyle. And if you look at them 2, so Brad dominated that year, and then they would make a step to like say 80s or whatever, and then the other person, and they've kind of, and at times like there's been times where say Kyle was winning British Super Sport, and at the same time Bradley Ray was like 10th in Super Stock, and you think Kyle's totally taken off and Brad's left behind, and then all of a sudden Kyle would fall off and Brad started winning British Superbike races, and you're like, how's that? And it's so interesting because they're in the same team now.
But like you say,
and round to round it can like one of them could easily go out at the next race and win, and the other one could be out the points, and it's just it's such a great sport though, isn't it? Because you never know, it's so unpredictable.
Like you say, they're 2 examples. You know what I mean? And so there'll be that across all different classes when you keep an eye on the job, but it's hellish. Like, who's been your Kyle Ryde? Who's been your Ray then?
I'd probably have to say Jason O'Halloran, but only because I had so long at Honda with him. So we had 4 years together being teammates. And throughout probably the whole 4 years, we were quite equal. He had his days where he was head and shoulders above me. I had the odd day where I would have better results than him. I think average of the 4 years out, we were probably quite equal, but towards the end of, well, say 2018, I had a year where I was just injured all year, and Jason started taking some good steps, and he had some good results, and then obviously he's gone on now with the Yamaha. And
What was it? Because you tag Yamaha for a year. Did you both go to Yamaha at the same time, or did you stay at Honda?
yeah,
or?
so we both left Honda for whatever reason at the same time,
yeah.
and Jason went to Cams, and I went to Tag.
Yeah.
What was interesting when you were both in the Hondas were you would both be 5th and 6th, and then you'd be 10th and 11th, and then you'd be 1st and 2nd, whichever. When the bike worked, it seemed
It was
like
exactly that.
You worked it properly as a team, because like say that I was actually watching just by look on the last corner at Snetterton, and neither of you had won a race at that point,
Yeah.
and you were like miles ahead of everyone, and then it probably wasn't raining much out the back, but it started quite heavy on the last corner, and I'm thinking they've got it's got to stop. It's got to stop. The race has got to stop. It's got to stop. And then as you came around Coram, it looked like you were fully committed, and it's like it's raining. Oh, and then as you tipped in, you just went totally sideways. The whole crowd was like, oh, and then you managed to. Jason obviously passed you and beat you, but you did very well to stay on, and 1st and 2nd over the line. It was, but yeah, that
was the best and worst day of my life. That was
should have definitely been red flagged on the last lap.
See, obviously I knew it was raining when I was riding the last lap. I didn't know obviously how much it rained at the last corner, but all I remember was just tipping into the last corner as I had done the previous 15 laps, and the rear just going no way, and I thought, oh shit, I'm down. And I just thought, well, I've got to try opening the gas and see what happens. So I just picked the gas up and tried to open, and I landed back in the seat. So
great day for Honda though. First one,
yeah, obviously I was gutted to lose my first win because of that happening. But I had to try and be happy for Jason on the same day. There was some banter between us, it was, oh, congrats, I should have won it, don't spend all the prize money at once, you bastard, all that sort of thing. But no, in general, we got on well over the 4 years. But it was we would not really go and have cup of teas at each other's house. We would just be really civil over a race weekend, discuss the bike, or what do you think, but then Sunday try and beat each other, and that was how Honda wanted to. It had to be the best for the bike to push the bike forward.
From the outside looking in, what's Jason doing different this year? He's just he's dominating. He is dominating in it. He's just dominating it at the moment.
Clearly, they made a step last year, and he had them wins last year. He's got some confidence now. He knows exactly what he has to do, and he just goes out and executes it. And I'm not just saying it. I'm genuinely happy for him because he's come over from Australia, started a life here. All them years and injuries that he's been through, that I know he's been through because I was his teammate for long enough, he deserves everything he gets. Yes, of course, there's the frustrating side of it that I feel like I could do that or I could be close to doing that naturally, but we're two different riders. Jason's very smooth. I ride smooth in terms of style, but I can be quite aggressive with the throttle. So yeah, clearly what he's got is working well for him at the moment.
Because what you're saddling this year, it's a Honda, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you make of the new Honda compared to the other one? Like when you were last on one?
Yeah, so compared to the old bike, chalk and cheese, absolutely. They're
really?
They're really, really different. The old bike, so I'm talking the 15, 16, 17, 18 bike. They're all the same bike, but with electronic throttle. Yeah. Really nervous, really short, wheelied a lot, didn't have a lot of rear grip, so it was always moving. The bike was constantly always just dancing underneath you. This new one feels longer, heavier, more stable.
Heavier?
As in, I think the tyres contribute a bit to that, I think, but just feels like it moves less, more rear grip, less wheelie. They've just improved some of them things that were weak on the old bike. Clearly, I've not got the best out of it yet. We're still struggling with bits and bobs, but I think as a direct model comparison, they've improved areas that they needed to improve.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to the Honda, but we'll just quickly talk because there's the Yamaha bit in between. So when you signed so you and Jason both left Honda, you went to Tag, and that was the year after Josh Brooks had been there. Is that right?
No, Ellison was there. So Brooks was 17 with Tag.
Oh yeah, they did a switch in terms of mechanics.
Yeah,
and Tag,
right.
didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. And then so 18 was Ellison with Tag, and then I was 19 onwards.
And how did you find the Yamaha, like in comparison to the Honda you'd been on?
I remember the first tests, and in particular, I remember the first BSB test at Silverstone, which Jason was quickest and I was second. And I remember walking away thinking, well, we've both left Honda. Jason's first, I'm second. This is looking pretty good, but whatever reason it didn't keep going like that. The first race at Silverstone on the tag bike, I remember, building my confidence throughout all the practices, qualifying, got into Q3. I think I qualified 6th or 5th or something like that. So I was fairly content. I was the area I needed to be for the race. And I think I led the race for probably 3 or 4 laps in the start. But this is the first race of the year. Everyone's still...
Is this at Silverstone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's still really bunched up and finding the feet and, ready to get going. And I remember probably 8-10 laps into the race, suddenly the bike's feeling just changed and I couldn't stop it and it just chattered its head off. And I was like, oh my God, what's happened? Brakes must have bound on or something must happen with the brakes. Anyway, I finished the race, but I dropped so far back, pulled in, took the wheel out and all this like molten metal came out of the calipers. So I was like, there must have just been a problem with the brakes. Let's put new pads in, go again race 2. Go again race 2. Strong 8 or 10 laps, chattered its head off for the rest of the race. And I'm like, what the hell? But I've had a small bit of chatter before on a Moto2 bike in Spain in 2011 when I mentioned
the Michelin.
Yeah, the Michelin. Yeah. And that's the only chatter I'd had. And when we started with the tag bike from at Silverstone that weekend, 10 laps on, all I had was just this uncontrollable, harsh chatter of the bike, and I couldn't stop it. Whatever I did,
You couldn't run it deeper into the turns. You couldn't power out of it. Nothing.
You were just nursing it home from lap 10 onwards. And
that's surreal. And that was consistent lap 10.
Yeah, but this is on a short. Remember, Silverstone's a short track, so that's only 54 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, on about lap 8 to 10, that would start to happen in a 30-lap race at Silverstone. So anyway, the team could see all on the data, etc., etc. It was clear to see. So we just started working on the usual things: clutches, putting weight in the back of the bike, etc., etc. And pretty much every race for the rest of the year, obviously we went to tracks like Donington, which were longer, Brands, which were longer. You'd get 4 laps in, the bike feeling would change, and it'd just chatter, and I had to slow the pace down.
Did you get a finger on it? It sounds like heat transferring through the frame. It sounds like a fucked frame. No, you know what I mean? Like, the thing is, if it's consistent like that, you know what I mean? You've got so much flex in it, but how many frames did you change?
Honestly, I cannot fault the team at all. They tried everything possible. And I mean frames, I mean swing arms, I mean swing arm pivots.
My God, right.
Just, you name it, they tried absolutely everything. Assen, so we're talking 10 rounds down the line here. Assen, I remember for race 2, borrowing a set of triple clamps from, I think, McCams or somebody. We put the clamps in, did the first 3 laps. I'm thinking, yeah, we're away here. No chatter, I'm absolutely away. I was like 3rd in the race. Lap 5, I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go again. So I dropped back.
Did you ever get to speak to Taz or Jason? And were they? I presume they mustn't have been having the similar issues because of the results. But how can was there any like help from Yamaha in terms of like they had settings or combination of settings and the bike that they knew worked? Was
in 19?
No help.
I'd ask what I could to Taz and Jace, and the team would ask what they could to Steve Rogers and some of the guys at McCams, and they would mention a little bit of chatter, but the lap times could stay constant. And what I had, I just clearly couldn't do anything with from lap 4 onwards.
If it's that visible in data, that these are telemetry pots, aren't they? That have to move a fair bit to get to work.
And
so I'm just trying to paint a
that,
picture for people.
A lot of riders that would come past me in the race would find me in the paddock after and go, fucking hell, Dan, I couldn't believe like how much your bike was shaking. I had to pass you while your bike was chattering. It just looked unreal. So I know in my head and my heart that
there's nothing you can.
There's nothing I could do.
Yeah, and that was consolidated with Jack Kennedy coming into the team and him having exactly the same issues.
Yeah.
So fast forward to 2020, there was a new Model R1 that came out. The team built a brand new bike. We just didn't even think of chatter. We thought brand new bike will be away. It'll be absolutely fine. But I knew when we were testing that we had a chatter issue from the year before. We had to try and work on that and understand whether it was still there or not there, or keep trying to fix it. So we're all through the Spain testing. All I was trying to discuss with the team was chatter. Obviously, Jack came in, which I was really happy about, because what it needed was another fast rider that rides in a slightly different way, to see whether he still had the same. And again, going back to what I said earlier, I'm honest with what I always feedback, and if it's me, I'll try and do something about it. My natural way of riding is quite sat up. I'm not one of these riders that's very,
Dom elbow down.
yeah.
Oh God, Marquez copied me, son. They are.
I'm very
Shut up.
lazy, if you want to call it that. I'm very static in the bike. So I said, look, it might be how I'm riding it. It could be because I'm not putting that sort of weight on the front of the bike. So it was interesting for me to see when Jack came in if that was still an issue. And I didn't want to sort of say to Jack in testing, look, man, we've got a massive chatter problem.
Plan it in his head kind of thing.
Yeah, I wanted to leave him to it to see whether he found the same. And it's hard in Spain because tracks are different, grips different. You didn't really do the massive long race runs to understand it. And it was only when we got to the first, so obviously COVID hit, so the first races were later in the year. We get to Donington and I could feel on the outlap I had chatter. And I was like,
Jesus,
we're not in a good place here. So I would just... My head's just trying to fix chatter with the team. We're trying all sorts again. Weight in the front, weight in the back, you name it, we're trying it. And I think the race one, me and Jack were together. We were like 14, 15 for something. Jack had chatter, I had chatter. We could overlay data, we could see where it was, etc. So at this point, it's quite relieving for me, as in, all right, Jack's got chatter as well. So it's not how I ride. It's something that, as a team, we're missing or etc. we're doing. And look, this is exactly as it is. God's honest truth. I didn't want to ride it anymore because I'd had 2019 basically retiring from races or having to nurse the bike home after 4 or 5 laps. I just couldn't face another
season like that, yeah.
Doing that. So I laid my cards on the table to the team and said, look, I just don't want to ride it. I can't have a year like that. What's our options? What can we do? And fair play to them, Rob and Tracy, Chicken, everybody. They said, look, we need to change the manufacturer. We don't know if it's Yamaha that's causing it or something we're doing or whatever. We'll pay you till the end of the year. You can go and ride whatever else you want, as long as you sign to come back with us for 2021. And I was like,
play to them, mind.
What more can you do than that? It sent goosebumps down my spine. Like, you can't be any fairer.
Yeah.
Not
many people like that about it.
No way.
No, absolutely
in
not.
any job.
And being honest, me and Rob, we don't see eye to eye over negotiations normally, pre-season, but actually at an event and throughout the year, I get on well with him, and I'm, we have a decent time. But so they were really, really good in that they let me go ride for Michael Rutter in the Bathams team, and they continued to, adhere to what was left of the contract because it was half with COVID anyway.
Yeah.
As long as you come back and ride for us in 21. So I didn't know what bike that was going to be, but I said, look, I want to be in Superbike, you want to be in Superbike. For you to change manufacturer, I understand you need a commitment from the rider or from me, so I'm happy to do that if you're going to put me in Superbike. So I pretty much signed this letter that they'd made that just said I'll be back in Superbike with them for the following year. And there was a clause that if I didn't adhere to that, I'd have to pay them the money back, etc. But, that's only fair. So, like I say, absolutely fair play to Rob. I can't sing enough praises of him for doing that.
Is there any bike at that point that would have put you off? If they said, right, they're going to pick a manufacturer, they rolled in a bike that you thought...
Were you involved in that conversation? Was it like, which bike do you think we should get?
Slightly. And obviously the Honda link I had as well, so... Strange because the new Fireblade had come out, Glenn and Andrew were winning straight away on it.
Yeah.
We'd run into this chatter problem. We were like, well, what manufacturer do you want to go with? And they've got a bit of a connection with Kawasaki through Chris Walker. I had a connection with Honda. Honda was winning. It was like, well... I left it to them. I'd said, what I think, but they chose Honda in the end. So, from my point of view, it was quite simple. Just rang Harv. Can you speak to my team? They want to run Hondas. They'd like to discuss any support that they could have, or can you, tell them what parts you use, etc. So, they had meetings and made that happen. And they pretty much decided to change to Honda. But what I need to say is, clearly McCams weren't having the problem. It's not a Yamaha problem. There was some frustrations I get from Rob's point of view. He'd ploughed a load of money into the team. We were having this massive chatter problem. They thought it was, Yamaha. It was just a mess, and I didn't want to get too involved in it because clearly, it was people were getting fraught over it. So the team tried everything they could. I don't think it was a Yamaha problem. I think I don't want to point fingers. Things have changed, tyres have changed, feelings have changed. Look at Josh now. I don't know whether that coincided with a change in tyre spec and how the team built the bike or electronically, we still don't know. But we couldn't get that bike to stop chattering.
Yeah.
And that was the last of it. And I said, I don't want to ride it anymore. I want to go have fun. I need to get my confidence back. I've been riding this Yamaha for 18 months and I had no confidence because all I did was chatter. So I said, I need to go to stock. I need to rebuild my confidence and have fun racing again. And maybe if I get some podiums or whatever, I can come back to Superbike with some confidence and we go and have another crack at it.
Did you enjoy the Superstock?
I absolutely loved it. But to be honest, it took 3 or 4 rounds to get comfortable with that as well. You probably know a bit more than me as well. We had some quite big engine brake issues with Batham's bike, and Michael Rutter was absolutely mint. I must say, Michael was a really good team boss because although as miserable as he can be, he understands from a rider's point of view what you're asking for, what you're feeling, and then he could jump on the bike as well at an airfield and feel it and make changes. So we knew what the issue was. We couldn't get the bike to stop. It was just pushing into corners, and I was losing brakes after 3 or 4 laps. So I knew as soon as I got that sorted that we'd be okay, but it just took a bit longer than what we'd hoped to get it sorted. So they did some airfield work, and I think just for the last round at Brands, they were pretty sure we'd got it sorted. As soon as I went out in FP1, I knew it was better, and finally I could sort of be myself on the bike, and I wasn't, clearly you could say I wasn't dominating it. I was just in the front, I was just in the mix, but it was so nice to have a race with the same feeling every lap, being able to fight, being able to overtake, have some fun. Danny beat me on the last lap, but I loved it. It was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, good memories from that, and it did what it needed to do. It gave me some confidence back, some feel back, some belief back. Relighted the fire a little bit, if you want to call it that, to do it again and move back into Superbike with a clear head.
And do you feel like, in hindsight, changing to Honda, are you happy with that? Are you pleased with the move to Honda?
I think it was the right thing to do, yeah. Clearly Yamahas are winning, or they're one of the bikes that are winning at the moment. But my package, I believe, it's good. There are all the metals there. I think all the spec, all the parts, everything is there. We just need some more time electronically to get throttle feeling correct. And we've still got a small, I'm not going to say issue, a small feeling of chatter. But Josh has got some chatter and other riders are still talking about chatter. So I think now what I have is the normal amount of chatter that other riders are talking about since these new bigger tyres have come in. But my main issue at the moment is throttle feeling. And we did a test at Cadwell Tuesday just gone, where we made a good step with the how the power comes in. And so I'm hoping for another step at Donington again.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Here's a question. Is it true that Honda aren't giving out any support for, like, so you can go buy a Jixer on a race package support, you can go buy a Kawasaki on a race package support, blah, 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 blah. Is it true that Honda, you don't get any help with them whatsoever?
I wouldn't.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't know the full-on ins and outs, but
that's what I've
as
heard.
far as
anyway.
what I remember, everything needs to pay for. It's
oh God,
there's possibly a discount and parts prices and stuff, but I'm not really in a position to know.
No, fair enough. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
You never know until you ask, do you? You know what
All
I
I
mean?
could do is pick the phone up to the contact I have it on.
If you don't mind, if you could do it right now, while we're live on air, that'd be mint.
Have you seen the new CBR 600?
No, I haven't. No.
Marquez is always Instagramming it.
Adam McLean's on one.
Is he?
Sorry, I've seen Marquez's post on that, and him riding around the go-kart tracks doing whatever he's doing and thrashing it. But
Did Adam have a good Armide, by the way? That's
No, Adam McLean had an absolute fantastic one. He's riding so well. He broke his is it humerus at the top? Yeah, what Marquez bust, that's a humerus, isn't it? So Adam McLean, bless him, I think we've mentioned him on the show a few times, and he's been beaten half to death for the shit luck stick. He really has, but he just keeps coming back stronger and stronger, and he was proper dishing out some portions with Michael Dunlop, and it was just mint to see. And he's absolutely hanging the arse out on that bike.
it is a shame, really, that there's not many more Hondas in the super sport.
But you can't get them in. They're bringing them out, but you can't get them in this country yet.
Right.
But I know a certain bollocks. I'm just going to say it. Ian Locker's got his hands on a couple.
Has he?
Yeah. Ian Locker's got his hands on a couple, and I believe Adam's been going around Kirkestown on one. Now, I'm only putting two together there, saying after a few pints. But basically, he's the only one who gets his hands on them, Locker, and there's only a couple in the country. And Adam is absolutely flying around. If you look on his Instagram page. And to be honest, I think he's really, really liking it.
Just briefly on the roads crack, that's something's just jumped into my head. Did you see Jamie Coward had a big off at Anglesey?
Jesus, wet. Nathan Harrison, who's on the Honda, he's really the only privateer that I know in the roads who's on the new Fireblade. There's a photo. My God, just
I've seen it.
the
tank.
you have to put it on.
Is it the tank or the fairing?
It's the fun fairing. I haven't heard anything from Jamie. I just hope Jamie's all right. But he was sliding on his face at the time, so he wasn't as high as the bike. So thank God. I tell you what, another thing with the road side of thing, Davey Todd was out on the Padgett's bike at Cadwell.
Yeah.
So.
And Connor Cummins were out, wasn't he?
And Connor Cummins, it's great to see Connor Cummins back out as well, but it's like, no, so don't know what's happened with the Honda side of things there for the roads.
Yeah.
Well, apparently you're going to make a stand in, two newcomers, Glenn Irwin and Dan Linfoot.
That's do you know the fast? So it's a fast right kink before the hairpin at Anglesey.
Yeah.
That'll be. I've never been there on 1,000, but it's motoring on in it.
That is motoring, but like, that is so close to not like hitting like Nathan.
Well, that guy's going through the left hairpin then at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like Austria, the MotoGP situation, that, isn't it?
Yeah, that was sketchy. I was just getting the Patreon questions. We're on a Patreon page.
Talking about the Honda, I've got to say thank you to Andy Farrell. I broke down in the last open race. I ran out of fuel, came up to the top of the hill, and Andy Farrell gave me a lift, and mate, I've never done anything like that in my life. He was wheeling over the back jumps, man, with me on the back.
Wow.
And he's giving one hand, as waving at people and stuff. I'm like, fucking hell, Andy. Literally pulled in, right, in the Southern Irish accent, went, you better fucking mention me on that podcast. So I'm guaranteeing you a mention. Andy Farrell, you absolute legend. Absolute
first one,
tapped, man.
Ryan Garside, why number 4? I think I know this one, but...
Why number 4? So started in 2005. I finished 4th in the British 125 Championship and earned the right then to run number 4 for 2006. When I was also in British 125, I liked number 4. I tried to save number 4 as often as I could after that because I just liked it.
Fair enough. We've got one from Jonathan. Hey guys, amazing weekend for you two, and really looking forward to seeing you on the podium again. Dan is looking 15 years younger with the new hair of
elephant in the room, eh?
I know. I love how you're looking at me. It wasn't me that mentioned the hair transplant, right? It was him. So I'm getting the full grass here. So
did you get that done in the UK? Or?
Yeah, I must say I got it done in a place in Leeds, right actually near Padgett's in Leeds.
Aye.
Literally 10 doors down from Padgett's. It's a place.
I could just see the Padgett lads going. Hey!
It's a place called the Hair Doctor, and what an experience. And I'm not just saying it, I've recommended 4 or 5 people to go there since, if that's your thing and you're conscious about a bit of hair loss, etc. What a service. Absolutely.
Hey, you should be tapping them up for a bit of sponsorship.
Well, if you look closely, they're on my levers and my arm. I already have done. So yeah, what great story. Lovely guy there. Yeah.
Because a lot
is
of people,
he Turkish?
A lot of people go over to Turkey for it, don't they? Is it cheaper in Turkey or something?
Yeah, I didn't look into the Turkey option, to be honest. My experience was a bit...
Foglu was there, that's why.
My experience was a bit impulsive. I don't want to mention other names, obviously. I'd seen someone else had it. I thought, wow, I need that because mine's gone. And this was in October, November of 19. I was getting married in March 2020. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I need to probably do it soon because I want to have a decent photo on the wedding day. Yeah. And I went for a consultation in Leeds on the Monday, and I think I was having it done on the Thursday.
Yeah. To be fair, you would never know if you hadn't seen you earlier. You would never.
It was a great time of year because season had just finished, and then the COVID stuff hit, so it was an extended break, if you like. So
COVID haircut.
Well, so I left the paddock in end of October 19 with disabled hair, I call it, because it looked shocking.
Disabled.
And then I turned up in 2020 with full curl, so it was really strange. Really,
do they take your hair and like implant it in?
They shave your hair off, draw lines where you want your new hairline. They've got like a handheld drill that must extract the follicle, and you sat there for a while. I was laid on my front for 4 hours. They're extracting it out of the back of your head, so it's taken from all around the back of your head, but obviously randomly in an area. And there's loads to go out there because generally your hair's a bit thicker in that area. So they take it out, they get all these, follicles of hair, sort through them, and then literally they just
plant them in your head.
They get a scalpel and they just cut thousands of incisions in the front of your head to make your new hairline, and just sit there with tweezers putting each follicle back into your hairline. So you're 4 hours laid on your front while they extract, and you're 4 hours laid on your back while they put them back in, and you've just got like 10 to 14 days, taking care of it, not washing it too aggressively, and waiting for it to grow back.
On that. Have you got a discount code for any recommendations?
Can definitely sort it out if anybody needs it. Yeah.
So get in touch with you if anyone's interested.
Hair doctor in Leeds.
Liam Evans, question to all of you. When moving on to a new bike, what's the first areas you focus on to get a good base setting for yourself? That's such a great question. Do you lead on that one, Dan? So first thing.
The first thing is comfort. It's like aesthetic comfort. You know, you're sat in the seat, you want your handlebars, your levers, your seat pad, your tank. And actually this is really relevant because I struggled with the Fireblade this year for the first tests and 2 or 3 rounds. The seat to tank height is really shallow. You know, normally a tank is probably that much higher than a seat and you've got a good area to lock your legs into. The Honda's really, really shallow. You're looking about that much. So I've had to have a tank extender come 3D printed thing slotted in so that I can actually corner, because when I was cornering I couldn't grip the tank with my leg and I was falling off the bike and just generally wasn't comfortable. So the first thing is comfort. A lot of riders have a tailor-made seat pad so that when you're accelerating and you slide back in the seat you've got some form of foam, you know, holding you in position. And yeah, from there it's a setup that your classes, you know, your base or somewhere you're comfortable with. Obviously, with the superbikes, you've got electronic setting as well, so you need a throttle that's soft, confident, not too much power delivery, etc. So, a few areas to work on, but the first thing is comfort.
Yeah, that's good.
What about you?
For me, obviously that goes like the first things that in the garage comfort thing. For me, in terms of a feeling, I need to sort of get that communication between the head, the hand, and the back wheel. And soon as before you get a slide, it's kind of like blind faith, but then you kind of get to that point where it starts to break traction, and once you know where that limit is, you can then sell and start working from there. But like for me, it's really important to get to the point where it slides, and
you need to feel the rear tire.
When I first got onto the BMW beginning of last year, so after COVID, that's one thing I did about 3 track days, and I purposely wasn't changing the rear tire. I did like 2.5 days on the same rear because I was wanting to lose traction, and I was coming in and I was saying, to be fair, the setting that was in already was that good on tires, it just wasn't ripping them. And but I could not. I was literally, say coppice, I was like getting midway and then going full, trying to step the rear out, and it just wouldn't do it. And we found out it was the electronics that weren't allowing it to do it. So it was actually the electronics that we needed to get that feeling, and then it's sort of the feeling. What about yourself for the roads?
First thing I've got to get over is the price tag. Bar that.
Get a special dint in the tank to put your massive box. Same sort of stuff, like bars
same thing, kind of thing. You know
and
what
I guess
mean?
chopping and changing from classics to can you even do things like that with classic bikes?
Oh god, yeah.
Like, you're not going to mess with seat pads and
you
just get on it and ride it.
Get on the
yeah.
fucking thing and ride it.
Do you know, because the bikes we ride
built
now,
for endurance racing. You know what I mean?
You use the clutch to set off, and then you don't touch it until you're back in park firmly. You want to feel the clutches on them classic bikes.
I've got off British bikes on the classics, on the modern stuff, all in like one. I did a sidecar, a BMW Stock 1000. I did a G50, which is a British bike on the far side, and also a Super Twin in the same weekend.
Fair play.
Behind this chubby shell is the beating heart of an athlete, I'm telling you.
I can correlate because I once did...
Correlate? Get off altitude. That's far too much of a big word.
Relate then. I did an event in Phillip Island. I did the International Classic one year with Rutter, McWilliams, all the guys, and the throttles were so heavy on that classic bike. I had to go twice to get the thing to go.
You had to be less Yorkshire. Just twist the thing there.
We're getting soft with all these electronic throttles. That's the, I know. But yeah, the brakes were shit. It didn't steer. The throttle went to get. It was hard work, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I bet you did. I bet you did.
We'll go.
I bet that's a hell of an event.
Just a track I really wanted to ride, Phillip Island.
I bet.
Wanted to for years, but yeah, short races, but yeah, great.
I bet it was good.
The riders that were in it as well: McWilliams, Steve Martin, Troy Corser, Colin Edwards. It was Hickey. It was absolutely mint. I really, really enjoyed that.
Go on then. While he's looking for another question, the retirement. Is that a different subject altogether? Retirement of Rossi.
Yeah.
The retirement of Rossi.
Yeah. Hey, I think it was a sad day, but we've had him for longer than what we could have hoped. Hey, watching him on the TV and his career, You're speechless, aren't you? It's...
But the good thing is, he's got loads of time on his hands to get on the show now. So I'm over the moon. We've got him booked in, and basically, can't wait.
Yeah,
it's, imagine if we got him on. Imagine
such an icon of the sport run for like my favourite sporting moments have all been linked around Rossi. So it's.
I guess you're the sort of same upbringing era as me, watching him on TV. You know, all the Rossi Fumi, Toilet Jerez, all the iconic things he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is Mr. MotoGP.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've only recently discovered I've been following Joe Ackroyd's career like really, really tightly.
This sort of links. So we've got Daniel O'Brien. Well done, Chris, on your Thruxton podium, and Dom on your Armoy win. To all of you, Ray was Jonathan Ray was recently linked to the Petronas SRT ride in MotoGP, but Razlan Razali, our SRT team owner, said that Ray wasn't an option as he is too old. What do you guys think? How old is too old? And
what the
side note, and to Dan, what's been your career highlight and what's been your biggest low? We'll start with the too old thing and then we'll go on to that. For me, you can see MotoGP team managers are looking for the future of the sport, and they're very often looking at Moto2 as the main route in. And when you look at all of the top guys in MotoGP, you know, if you went back a few years and you said, oh, who would you rather have, like Dovi or Joan Mir? To me, I would be thinking, well, Dovi's like a proven winner. I think I would definitely have Dovi on, where that would have been the wrong decision because Mir's much younger and is clearly the future. And same with like Quartararo, I personally would never have picked Quartararo over like a proven MotoGP race winner, but it's proved to be the right thing. So you can see why they want, like as a team owner, you would want the youngest riders through. But just from a British point of view, I would obviously have loved to have seen Jonathan Ray given an opportunity in a good bike with a proper effort in MotoGP. But I guess we've been lucky to see the greatest World Superbike rider like dominate the sport.
Yeah, look, what I think is Johnny's won World Superbike, 5 times? Is it six times?
6 times
on the bounce. Clearly, he deserves to be in MotoGP from talent, results, etc. All that package. But I guess if you were the MotoGP team guy and you're looking at bringing someone in from Superbike who might need 2-3 years to adjust, you're not going to want to give a guy in mid-30s probably that opportunity, I guess. Whereas the Moto2 guys are younger and have already in that Grand Prix way of riding.
Yeah. Crutchlow been the biggest success coming from World Superbikes, but if you look at Ben Spies went to World Superbikes, dominated in his first year, which is like, when you think about it, it's almost impossible, and then never really translated to, well, he certainly never dominated MotoGP. He was a strong runner, but he wasn't a championship winner. And same with James Toseland, won World Superbikes, and then I think it's totally different riding the prototype bikes.
If you were the team manager, Chrissy, what would you do?
SRT team manager, you would definitely be looking at like some young
You agree with that then? You would, wouldn't you? If you got an opportunity to gamble as a team manager, you would go. Let's pick someone from below that level and see how they cope. That is the gamble you'd look at it.
You're gonna say it because we're Brits, but it needs a Brit.
Yeah,
I would assume it needs a Brit, and there's Jake, Sam. Cal's not probably going to go full time again, so
Dorna are desperate for a Brit, and I think they would have loved Jake to have won some races this year, and sort of been where Sam's been.
Get Sam in there.
I would love to see Sam in, but I think from their point of view, they'll think he's too old. So I think that's the problem that he's got. But I think Sam's got the talent to on a top bike. I would love to see
one person out of British now, not superbikes, any class. Who would you put on that bike?
What, in MotoGP?
On that ride.
What,
just for the
BSB?
shits. Someone you like, anyone that you just think, fuck it, put him on the bike for the crack.
Jason's dominating. No, Jason and Christian are man of the moment.
Yeah, probably. Jason is on top of his game at the moment, so he would be the one that you'd be first in line, but realistically, is that ever going to happen now?
Yeah, I still vote Ben Tolliday, the back of Supersport there. Get him on the bike.
Yeah,
get him on the bike. He's a Yorkshireman, Scarborough lad. There you are. Get him on the bike. Ben Tolliday all the way.
MotoGP team managers are really looking at Moto2 and worse, and sometimes Moto3. Like Jack Miller came straight from Moto3.
Like the Pedro Acosta's looking to go that way.
Is he?
Well, no, he'll be in MotoGP soon, won't he?
Yeah. Probably
whether it's next year or the year after, he's going that way, so... And that's where they're looking at for sure, Moto2, Moto3.
Other questions from Daniel, just very quickly. Biggest high, biggest low?
Biggest high, well, probably
getting that text from the missus when you're in hospital.
Probably last night getting a text from you saying 6:30 you're on. Well, biggest high, yeah. The day that kids are born is obviously a high, which the missus is going to want to hear, obviously. Yeah, well, my BSB wins clearly will be up there, along with
The first one. The wet or the
probably the
first
second one more so, because I class the first one as a bit of a fluke and riders crashed out, like 7 or 8 guys finished. How can you be peaking with a race that 7 guys finished?
I would. Yeah.
But the week after was genuine, and to beat Haslam fair and square was...
Yeah, that's hella sharp mind.
So that's probably my best result in race. But other things have been great, you know, like doing Suzuka 8 Hour and finishing that race, and just some other experiences, Phillip Island Classic, World Super Sport podium. There's been loads of different ones, but for different reasons they've all been cool. But probably the BSB win. Doing Goodwood, as daft as it sounds, meeting Valentino at Goodwood was great. You're surrounded by... You've probably done Goodwood. And...
I haven't, no. I'd love to do it. I'd love to do it.
Been as a mechanic, haven't you?
Yeah, and drank a lot of beer. It was good crack. There you go. Tell you what, I'm very carefully going to get labelled as a classic rider. I only do that to go to the Isle of Man, right?
I'm not the revival. I mean the Festival of Speed.
I would love to do it. I want to do every event under the sun. I'm doing Spa. The classic Spa. See, I'm not just a classic rider, right? But no, I'm hopefully doing Spa at the end of the month with Ian Sinclair and.
Good track to do. Never done it, but it looks really good track.
My God, I hope it does. But the way COVID is and stuff like that, I may have to ice. I don't. My God, It's an event that I want to do. Like I said to you before, you regret the things that you don't do. And if I have to isolate for that long to go do an event that I may never get a chance to do again, I'm doing it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just going to put Chrissy on the chainsaw and you can earn me money.
You only live once, don't you?
Well,
have you got a biggest low?
It would be 2018, the injuries. You know, I was so... After winning a couple of races in 17, I was hoping 18 was going to be my year to have a push for the championship. I started off with a podium at Donington and went to Brands and I crashed in practice. This is quite comical as it happens. I broke my neck in practice, which sounds bad,
not very funny.
It was a simple fracture of C6, so it was literally just, what do they call them, in a neck brace for 10 or 12 weeks. But actually, at a similar time, Shaky had his off and he was in the full halo, so it made me feel quite grateful that I just had the temporary one. Recovered and got back to Knockhill for round 4, crashed at round 5, broke my scaphoid. You were in that race. In fact, I crashed really near you in that race.
Westfield.
Yeah, massive crash. Mm-hmm. Still don't know what happened, but massive crash. Broke my scaphoid. Came back for Silverstone round 9. Round 10, crashed at Assen and Glenlow and ran over me at the last corner at the chicane. Remember the fireball thing?
All in 1 year?
All in 1 year. So I literally pulled myself out of hospital 3 times to get back on the bike. And that was
like a proper bloke.
Definitely my biggest low.
Just a quick one on that Assen thing. Glenn really went up in my estimations for this. During the race, there was, I don't know if it was your crash, because there was a few on the chicane. I think Tommy Bridewell was involved in one. Taz was in the middle of the track. And this
Dean Harrison just skipped him.
Yeah, so, and the reason Glenn went up in my estimations is there's been a few times where in races something's happened where like somebody's on the track or there's a bike. You can see a crash is happening, and as a sort of, I guess it's a little bit selfish, to myself, my first concern is always trying to avoid the fallen rider. Right. But in a mad sort of perverted way, you're more interested on you're massively interested on the race itself and the safety, the people behind. Like if somebody crashed in front of me, my first thought would be trying to avoid them, and then I'd be thinking about the next corner. And Glenn, Taz crashed, so there was a crash here, and Glenn's instinctive thing to do, split second, was to get up and start waving his hand so you're accepting that you're going to lose positions and lose time, but to make sure that the safety of one of your riders, and it's, I mean, for people that don't race, people will be thinking, you think that's the obvious thing to do, but
that's an
instinctively,
overdose
when you're in a race, it's
it goes against what you're there to do.
Yeah, and I thought fair play, because to instantly, if your first thought at that speed to instantly think about letting people behind, no, I just thought he was the only person that did it.
Or maybe also because the first start of that race when he ran me over, so he just had an incident there, and then it was the restart that Taz's happened.
Okay.
So he's maybe like, it's just happened once, quick, get my hand up. But also on that, at Brand's last round, Hickey crashed out of Surtees. Do you remember watching that on TV? And he was laid in the track, and all I did was put my hand up. And it was my throttle hand as well, I think. I can't quite remember, but I put my hand up straight away as soon as I saw Pete in the track. And 3 or 4 guys whizzed past me, but I was just that concerned about Pete being in the track that I had my hand up. So again, I did the same sort of thing, but I think that's only probably because I've been run over twice now.
Yeah.
And it's not funny. So, but actually going back to that one at Assen with Glenn, this sounds mental, but I've looked back, I've got the videos and pictures and all sorts of it, but I think I'm lying in the track or sliding in the track, as he's come to hit me as such, I've not really asked him this, but, and fair play to him, I think he's gassed up. Rather than just run into me with the front wheel, I think he's actually like tried to jump me and burn me and just hit the gas and jumped me a bit.
It would be a lot less painful if someone ploughed into you with the brakes on.
Oh,
and that's exactly my point. Is I think he's helped me with injuries in that point because I didn't actually break anything in that one. I was just muscles ripped and internal shit. But I think if it had hit me off the gas or on the brakes, it'd have been a different story.
Yeah.
So yeah, we never really had the discussion. He did text me after, saying, "Oh, I really hope you're okay. Clearly, I had nowhere to go. Didn't mean to run you over, but I hope you're okay." So from that point of view, fair play. But yeah, I think him hitting the gas helped the injuries that day. And I've told a few people this story. This is just how bike races work. But bearing in mind, I'd already been in hospital twice that year with a neck fracture and a scaphoid break, and then I had this Assen incident where Glenn ran me over. I was convinced I'd broken a pelvis because I just couldn't feel anything in this area, and I'd already broken it 7 years ago or whatever. So I thought, I've done something to my pelvis. I remember being laid in the ambulance, being transferred to Groningen Hospital or whatever it was, and I just said, I'm done with this shit. I'm retired. I'm absolutely just finished and I'm over. And I got to the hospital and had the scans, and she said, "Oh, haven't broken anything, just muscles." I'm like, Brand's in 2 weeks.
That's amazing how your
just
brain
how it
switches.
goes, doesn't it? From worst thing in the world to actually no, we're back on. So the highs and lows of racing, eh?
Yeah,
It's mint, isn't it? It is mint.
And a very last question, but we've actually already covered it, was Lars Christiansen. And in 2006, you won the 250 EC race at Vallelunga. Yeah. Where's Vallelunga, by the way?
Rome, Italy.
Right. It said, nice. Was that really your first race on a 250?
Absolutely.
We've had that confirmed.
Absolutely. I'd not tested the bike at all or even sat on it prior to free practice one.
Crazy.
But what I would say is, I don't want to talk myself out of it or any sort of injustice, but the European 250 Championship was quite weak. It wasn't stacked with 20 young, soon-to-be Grand Prix riders. Quite a few older 250 riders that were riding 250s because they were fun. There was one fast guy on Aprilia called Alvaro Molina who did some GP wildcards, and I think he broke down in the race while I was battling with him or something like that. So I'm not going to say I was gifted it. I was already, battling for the lead.
Too modest. We'll cut that last bit out.
I will edit that out.
But yeah, I did, win it without sitting on the bike before. And
fantastic. Brilliant. Have we missed any main topics or anything you want to quickly mention before we wrap things up?
No, absolutely no mention. No, thank you for having me. Like I said, I've watched a lot of your pods and I really admire what you're doing. So long may they continue. Let's get that 116 to 516 or however many more you've got to come.
I know you mentioned about getting Harv on. It's very interesting. Like as you've went through your career, you're talking about different team managers, and it's like, oh, what was he like? And it's like pause. Two people that you've instantly said they were mega were Pete Extons and Michael Rutter. Were them the two best sort of team managers you've?
Oh, to say a best one is hard because everyone has different. Like a rider, everyone has a different strength. Harv was very factual. He needed facts to make an opinion to move forward in the right way. So Harv was very professional, if you want to call it that. Where some of the others were passionate or a bit up and down or harder to get on with, or a lot of different characters. So to pick a best is hard because they were all a whole lot of different pros and cons, and obviously during a season which was going better or worse as well.
Well, here's a good one. If you were going to go into team management, who would you base yourself off? Who would you like to be most like?
Good question. Very good question.
Yeah, Rutter was good. Pete Extons was good. So they're the two that I think...
In the middle.
You're trying to mould yourself off them too.
Yeah, but probably with pros of others along the way. I like the Harv factual stuff, very professional. And to be honest, I think it's a role that I would quite suit one day as well. I've been around a long time now, even though I'm only 30, I'll not say 33. Yeah, I've got a lot of experience, and whenever it does come to a stop one day, I would like to still be involved in it. But I want to race for X amount of years more yet. So
Good man.
Well, we've had plenty of plugs along the way, so we've got Woodcourt Events, iBuyAnyBike.com, the Sweets business. Have we got any more? Well, do you sell any merchandise or anything like that?
do you know what? Actually, no, I don't. I had a little play with it over COVID last year with a bit of a website, but as great as it is, I had friends and family that buy shirts and caps, and then when that dries up, you struggle to sell it to I'm not a big enough name like Hickey or whatever yet to really sell in bulk, so I don't really buy into stuff like that, to be fair, but fair play to the guys that do. Mm-hmm. Thanks for any followers out there that are a fan of me. I will try and get back to some podium performing results soon. Just need a little bit more time, I hope. And
what's the Instagram handle? Come on, what's the Twitter, Facebook?
Just my name, just Dan Linfoot.
There we are, straight up the bat there. There we go. Grand, absolutely grand.
Well, I think that's everything.
But I've just got to say one more time, so well done to Armoy. I can't stress how important that was for road racing, how well it all went. Get well soon, all the riders. Daryl Tweed, Ryan, the captain, Insano, who would like to be dubbed a sniper's nightmare from now on, because he wobbles all over the place. So that's what he would like to call himself. That's all seriousness. That's what he wants to be called. But no. Honestly, I really can't stress how important that event went and went well. So fair play to everyone. Fair play.
Brilliant. And
probably maybe a quick one, obviously, for Brad Jones, who's recovering at this point.
Of course, yeah.
There was another update the other day, wasn't there, that he's had some surgeries, I think, on his pelvis and chest, and they're looking at bringing him out of sedation soon. So
it was great to see the unity in the British Superbike paddock and how sort of popular he is. I think every single person in the paddock was running the Keep
sticker.
Fighting Brad sticker, yeah. And we obviously send our best wishes. And this podcast is going to go out in a couple of days' time. So next we've got 2 back-to-back BSBs coming up. First one is at Donington National, and straight after next week's Cadwell Park. 2 of the best tracks in the country for spectating. So really hope to see plenty of fans there trackside. And the racing this year in all the classes is like ridiculously good. So you'll have a fantastic weekend. Any road racing?
Well, the only one that's really left is obviously you've got Macau, but the Gold Cup, we don't know where we are with the Gold Cup at the moment.
Aberdeen Park's on next weekend, isn't it?
This weekend,
is it?
It's happening this weekend. So, but no, as far as that, fingers crossed for the Gold Cup, because everyone wants to go out and watch a proper sport. So there you go.
And do you know the iBuyAnyBikes.com? Do you sell bikes?
Yeah.
So is that
the name's a little bit misleading. It isn't literally that we will buy absolutely any bike. It's that we're looking to buy bikes, obviously, to sell on. So we're actually gonna maybe have a bit of a name change over winter just to suit what we're doing a little bit more.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a bit of a reference with the We Buy Any Bike, which has different opinions, shall we say. So, yeah, the current business name is iBuyAnyBike.com, but we may be rebranding soon.
Cool.
Essentially, it's just a small dealership.
Right.
Have a look for some stock. We're only low numbers. We stock sort of 30 bikes at the moment. And as years go on, looking obviously to increase that. So,
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, good luck.
Look forward to getting you back on the show sometime soon, and best of luck for the next couple of rounds. Take care, and big thanks to our sponsor, Colchester Kawasaki, and obviously all of our patrons. And look forward to catching up soon. Cheers.
Awesome. Cheers, Dan.
Thank you.
Click, buy, deliver. With remote purchasing from the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasin The Racin.